I would ask my future self, if mankind was able to cooperate with one another in order to avert the worst effects of global warming by the year 2050.
So Tony Iommi, the guitarist for Black Sabbath, the press comes down on his two fingers, his middle and ring finger. And in that moment, as he pulls back, he pulls the ends of his fingers off.
Contrary to all the other managers that would come on the air and they would say, let me tell you something. I'm the brain here, and I'm this, and I'm that. And Jimmy Hart was never spoke about himself. He always put the heat, he always put the importance on his proteges.
And that social and cultural climate is what gave birth to a lot of those genres. Look at the graffiti art that was on the trains when they were going by, the 7 train, the 6 train, the 4 train. Okay, these trains are now in museums.
For Secretary of State, I will go with JFK. And the reason I go with Kennedy is that Kennedy understood the international scene.
The reason why one should discuss financial matters and financial disparities, and that should be a focal point in romantic relationships, is that it tells your partner where your values lie.
I would want to talk to Ronald Reagan because he changed that decade more than any other person. I would ask Mr. Reagan, so how do you stay to your true north when the rest of the world is suddenly hating you? How do you stay true to your principles?
This is where people who maybe feel a little behind the power curve in life can build a heroic character, and in the framework with rules, can actually become heroes for a few hours, whether it's you play every day, every week, every month.
Most people have more of an inclination to play sports than they do to be more cerebral or whatever, and so I think a lot of people, I know I did, I thought I was going to be a professional athlete.
That's a very good point. But why would higher life forms come and mutilate our cows or go after random farmers throughout the world? It makes zero sense.
Talking about being one, all of us being one. An article in the New York Times, in the magazine section, it was about how we as humans don't just live on the earth, we are the earth.
So I'm a therapist, and nonverbal communication is a huge aspect of my job. It shows somebody that, you're listening. It shows somebody that you care about them. And a lot of people don't have somebody to listen to them.
So if you have a situation with another country and one country is succumbing to your power, what is in the cards that country might just say, forget it, and I'll just hit the button?
When March Madness comes around, who's the one team that every single person knows on the planet is always going to be in that group represented no matter what happens? Duke. It's always Duke.
But to remind people of who Stagecoach Mary Fields was, that she was born a slave, and when she was 30 years old, that's when slavery was abolished, and she took straight off. I mean, she was out of there as quickly as she could be. Even left family behind, left her parents behind, left everybody behind.
What is good leadership? For me, it is selflessness. It is selflessness, and it's being able to reach in the dark and inspire someone when they are surrounded by fear and anxiety.
The Jungles and the Hanoi Hilton, and the things that man went through, firing squad, execution.
The Harley Davidson captures the mystique and the aura that is Americana.
Guys and gals and pals, it is Wednesday night. I feel so very right. And guys, welcome to the Black Box, a place where strangers leave us friends while having philosophical fun. We hit you with truth and facts, like number 34, a dream teamer who once brought it as a Phoenix Sun. On Saturdays, you're witnessing history. And there's no mystery that on Saturday nights, 149 Hall of Famers and award winners challenge themselves mentally, psychologically, spiritually, while I harp on this melody and kick it old school like a pelvis shaking Elvis Presley. Who am I? I'm all of you. The Cold Heart Cement in Queens, New York was my home. Growing up, all I needed was a basketball and a pen as I continued to roam. I starved before working for one of the biggest studios of all time, because unlike this rhyme, slow and steady win the race. As long as you aren't spraying your toxicity like a bottle of mace. John Goodman, Will Dafoe, Antonio Banderas, Carl Reiner, Bill Paxton. I was honored to write for all of these luminaries because I'm no different than you. I eat my peas. I was raised to ask please and lead with kindness above all. This inner city, scars. They weren't my fall. From a debilitated apartment as a kid, I saw what my father did. He worked tirelessly. He didn't complain. So please refrain from the woe is me, as it's mundane. Like a Goodfellas contest in Spain, where they do their best Pesci and De Niro while being profane. So that's my freestyle tonight. What does it all mean? It means you don't have to get it right to live through the fight. Be a truth sayer. A false narrative slayer, a Ferris Bueller type player, and don't bow down to the gods of social media. They'll never answer your prayer. With that, let's bring in our first participants. Then I'll bring up the rules. This is night 3 of this tournament. And unlike the Saturday night extravaganza, the bonanza, if you will, known as the TKN Celebrity Tournament, where 149 Hall of Famers for the world of sports, music, and wrestling, not to mention Olympians, Oscar, Grammy, Tony, Emmy, Golden Globe, AMA, WJ Award winners and nominees, all compete for the pride and the prize. One thing's a constant. We respect each other, we have fun, and that's why we challenge each other. That's why it's okay to say, I disagree. I lift my finger and rebut. I don't agree with someone's viewpoint. In this place, unlike the talking heads out there, we are civil about it. And we can be intense because, again, this is a place where strangers leave us friends. We have philosophical fun. We take the word education and entertainment and marry the two together. They don't get divorced. What do? They give you edutainment, and we give you edutainment all the while, guys and gals. Our numbers have been amazing. Thank you again. A little bit over a year plus. We're at 4 million views right now. And as you saw via the Facebook posts that have been splattered across social media, we right now, guys and gals, just had one of our biggest shows, 97,000 views this past Saturday. Again, over 78,000 subscribers in just over a year. It means a lot to us. We got our national sponsor, Progresso. Guys and gals, Amazon Prime. Hey, listen, I'll say it right now. Right now, what we're doing behind the scenes is all because of you. There would be no show without all of you. That's faux show. So, guys, let me bring in our first participant right about now. This is the team challenge. Let me zip the old lip after I bring them in, and then I will bring in the categories, name the categories, I should say, as well. So, guys and gals and pals, when you get it wrong, there's always the option of a voiceover. Our next participant is quite the talent. He could do De Niro, Pacino, and even your dog Grover. We laugh, we learn, and we marvel at his talent and skill. He offers it all, and you'll definitely get your fill. So sit back and watch us do our thing, guys and gals, with precision and joy as we all blossom and grow. As the host of Wednesday's Black Box, he was always wonderful, brilliant, and hits the target unlike Cobra aiming at G.I. Joe. He brings the facts and doesn't need to buy a vowel or a clue. Is he still one of my favorites to win this thing? That tidbit is 100% true. He's intelligent, talented, and one of a kind. His work ethic is incredible. He most definitely doesn't fear the grind. His vast array of knowledge might indeed be a plus when it's all said and done. His future begins tonight when he finds out who he's, guys and gals, facing the team of Steve and J.W. Will he hit a home run? This field is stacked, but I know he's ready to go toe to toe. Let's give it up for Mr. Voiceover himself, Joe Risitano. Welcome to the Team Challenge, my friend.
Thank you so much, Avi. That is a very sincere honor. Thank you, sir.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it. You are a very versatile human being. I want people to know that. A Renaissance man, if you will. There's nothing that you don't know. And you are you lead with humility. And that's what I like about you, Joe. You're a very humble person. Are you excited to meet your teammate, 3-time Grammy Award winner, dear friend, intellectual, but again, a very humble person, Mr. Dr. Matt Fink? Are you pumped?
Yes, I'm very pumped. I'm actually very excited. I'm entering this with a realm of calm because I trust who I'm going to be working with tonight with Matt Fink, and I think that we're going to be a really great match, and I'm excited to explore all the things that the both of us know, but also to learn from each other as well as learn from my competitors, because that's something very special about TKN, is that we have that opportunity to grow as well as be competitive.
Yeah, and I like being able to seek the truth, even if we approach the truth from a place of ignorance, because we all are ignorant to something or some things, plural. And that's what we do here, guys and gals. We learn from each other, but we go deep. We go very, very deep, several magnitudes of layer deep. Mr. Risitano, I'll put you backstage, and I'll bring you right back after I bring in your partner tonight, Mr. Matt Fink.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Guys and gals and pals, the show goes on. Let's bring in our good friend, Mr. Fink, right now. Guys, opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor. Don't work for recognition, but maybe you should do work worthy of recognition. Guys, our participant epitomizes the latter. He was born to parents Irvin and Harriet in 1958, as an artistic revolution would begin way before he was a teenager. Makes perfect sense, as his parents went to the University of Minnesota and picked quite the major. Theater, of course, and later his father was writing along with commercial voiceovers and directing plays. Soon this man would trailblaze and amaze the masses through those cool rays, as a plethora of fans would embrace and begin a craze and shower this artist with much deserved praise. But let me digress before I go sideways. As a 6.5-year-old, he took piano lessons and stuck with it a bit beyond senior year of high school. At age 14, he requested to work with 2 music teachers that definitely helped him pick more than one tool. It was their help, guys and gals, and with their help, that he learned improvisational techniques necessary to play jazz. Liberation was evident, as our passion should never be locked away in some sort of Alcatraz. He had his first gig comprised of kids in his neighborhood at some girl's bat mitzvah at the age of 12 and a half. Pretty soon, a bevy of fans would ask for his autograph, from London and even to Flagstaff. There was a legend on the rise that needed a keyboard player. In the basement of Pepe Willie, something was answered, perhaps a prayer, and conveyor, a man with an abundance of layers. Bobby Z, guys and gals and pals, wanted him to listen to this man's demo tape. Soon their collaborative experience would reshape and cultivate an entire genre and an era that needed an escape, as they began through their works of art to change their entire landscape. He requested an audition in October of '78, and after a 3-week wait, he got his shot thanks to his talent and innovation. There were no locked doors. He subsequently recorded with a legend, co-wrote some pivotal songs, and performed with him on world tours. He was influenced by the British bands of the 60s like the Stones, the Beatles, and the Who. How about an R&B and funk artist? Should we throw them in there as well? Should I provide you with a clue? Nah, let's name some of these greats, such as James Brown, Stevie Wonder, and Ray Charles. 70s bands like Earth, Wind & Fire, Steely Dan, Elton John, yes, and David Bowie. I can't count how many times I've rested these bones listening to those icons on my headphones. How about this great conversation in Wembley Stadium that he had with Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones? Does it get any better, guys and pals, than jamming with an absolute music giant, a true captain? Well, he did just that after an after party in London with the one and only Eric Clapton. His early synthesizer setup was Abraham OBXA, ARP Omni, Yamaha CP70 electrical grand piano, and an ARP pro soloist. He truly was able to entertain and provide a smile to those who were at their lowest. This man won 3 Grammy Awards, 3 American Music Awards, and numerous RIAA Gold and Platinum Awards for his work with the Revolution. And a certain individual I alluded to earlier, that man's name was Prince. He changed the music world. This is something that is evident, no need to convince. His work with Prince included his work with The Revolution, NPG, Madhouse, and the 1984 film and album Purple Rain, which has sold over 25 million copies worldwide. They had a range and more diversity than Jekyll and Hyde, as they made bigger headlines than Bonnie and Clyde. From the cover of TV Guide to even connecting to those living mountainside, our hearts and souls they occupied as they brought us all together and unified. So with that, I don't need a shrink to tell me what to think when it comes to my state of elation. Nothing could calm me down, not even a drink. You can help. So put your hands together for a kind, legendary artist, the Doctor. First name Matt, last name Fink. Welcome, my friend, to the Team Challenge.
Hey, Avi, how are you? It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. I had an epiphany about you. I thought it's time for you to have some music behind your rap. I think it's time. What do you think? Have you ever done that? Have you done it yet?
When I was growing up, but not in a long while.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Your introductions are amazing. I think you should be doing this. Like, I want this to grow. It's going to be millions. Yeah, it's great.
I appreciate that. And again, I know you're humble and you probably don't like taking compliments, but it means a lot to me because you devoted your life to music. I know that your parents, again, it's so difficult to have our parents realize that we have a passion that may not speak to them initially. Matt, that must have been a bit of a challenge, just because when somebody embarks upon a career that you have, I know initially, unless the parents are in the arts, yours were, it's very tough for anybody else dealing with an old school, old fashioned parent listening to their child saying, I want to get into this industry.
Yes, but I've seen it go both ways. I mean, I've met musicians who had parents who were very supportive of their careers, even though they were, maybe something complete opposite in their walks of life. But it varies. I've seen it. And people, even some of the members in the Revolution had parents that weren't supportive.
Oh, really?
A couple here and there, and I'm not going to name names.
No, of course not.
But most of them were.
You really amazed me with your insight when it came to delving deep into a lot of things that interest me as well, time and space and relativity. And you're a very knowledgeable person, but it seems like knowledge is something that, much like myself, it's something you seek regularly, right, Matt?
Yeah, I would say so. And I don't profess to know everything by any means. I'm just kind of trying to keep up with things a bit, technology and what's happening in the news and current events. And I just do my best to find the truth. I'm a truth seeker.
Yes.
In particular. So
I love that. Yeah. Myself, Mr. Stevie Ray as well. Guys, right now, Matt Fink is going to go backstage. Again, we thank all of you. Thanks for making the channel explode to 4 million in just over a year. And thank you again to our national sponsor. We are going to do this thing on Wednesday nights. Dr. Matt Fink, part of the Team Challenge. Let me bring Joe Risitano so you can meet your teammate for the duration of this. Now, guys, you'll see different teams every Wednesday, so it's not like Matt will be on every Wednesday or Joe. It'll be a rotation. Every 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. You'll see that team come back again. Joe, this is Matt Fink, and Matt, this is Joe.
Great to meet you, Joe.
Great to meet you as well, Matt. It's honestly a pleasure. And
real pleasure.
Can't wait to work with you this evening.
What's that again?
Can't wait to work with you this evening.
Same here.
With whatever we face.
Joe is quite the music aficionado himself. Joe, you play several instruments, do you not?
So I play drums. I've mainly majored on bass. That's actually what partially I went to school for. Is I went for majoring in music and graphic design, and for music in particular, I was learning to play bass and was a bassist. Yes.
Oh, wonderful! Have you played with some groups in the past, then, or recorded with people, or?
I have one recording, one actual recording, and as far as that goes, it's pretty much just been jamming or playing with people at small events or playing at live events with people now and then, because I don't specifically have one genre that I'm linked to.
Sure.
And because of that, I found a lot more opportunities to be able to jam and play with people in a more organic way live, because a lot of people prefer someone that's able to kind of gel with their different styles instead of just being like, oh, well, I can I can double thumb in this part right here, like in the pocket or something like that. So it's
You
really
are a
fun.
very talented musician,
Yeah.
my friend. Guys and gals watching, thank you again. Angel Mikel Torres, I see you there. Willie Wilson, Eric, Antonio. Guys, again, thank you for joining us. We got about 547 watching live. Let your friends know. Joe and Matt, I'll bring you right back in a moment.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Class personified, Mr. Matt Fink and Mr. Joe Risitano. Let's bring in our participants, team number 2 tonight, guys and gals and pals. This is a man I've known for a very long time. He's a fellow Queens brother. Whether he's out propping, either hanging or shopping, it isn't some lyrical miracle when defining my next guest, because he too can blaze those mics with his mission. Through sheer skill, effort, and ambition, this vision has come to fruition. Much like TKN, it's all free. There ain't no fee for admission, as he knows that winning this tournament will be a battle of attrition. Turn on that ignition, and on this edition, let's welcome a man that is quite a tactician. Feeling lightheaded around him? It's all good. He'll send you a physician, because his knowledge does magic tricks. David Blaine, the magician. Far from shallow, his thoughts travel like an arrow. He and I hail from Queens, where our poetic melodies bring you back to the 1980s. Some raw hip-hop in that can even make good old Ben Stein commit to the head bop in. Yo, I'm strictly about skills and dope lyrical coast in, so sit back and marvel at this man's excellence. You can enjoy his pearls while sitting in your pajamas. His brainwaves are hotter than Margot Robbie in the Bahamas, so prepare to tell the world that you grew, whether you're from the BX or Peru. Do you need a clue? This isn't a game hosted by a comedian named Drew. Wrap your mind around the truth like Nicholson Go and Cuckoo as I bring in a talented, intelligent human being, the one and only J.W. Welcome, my friend. J.W. in the house.
You want to hear something crazy? As long as we've known each other and as long as I've been a part of the TKN family, I think that was my first intro. I don't think I've
really. Was it?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had an intro before.
Round 1 when you were up against Christopher.
Maybe. I'd have to go back.
Yeah.
Because when you started, I was like, wow, am I getting an intro?
Why wouldn't you get an intro? Of course you're getting an intro. And, your teammate is someone that I hold in such high regard, as you know, as someone who I consider a big brother, someone who's so knowledgeable, but also someone that was a part of our journey early on. You remember Stevie Ray, of course, as well. We would all have wonderful conversations. I know it's the first time probably in a while that you and Stevie are getting together. I think the last time we were on, we all talked about Colin Kaepernick, JW.
Yeah,
Remember that? That was
we were all definitely wrestling with anything but.
we went deep, and you know what? I got to tell you, a lot of people are eyeing this team, JW, Stevie Ray. Are you looking forward to teaming up with Stevie Ray in the team challenge?
No, definitely, because there's a familiarity here, and unlike a lot of other people, like they were, people were put together and they have to adjust to their partner on the fly. Whereas I feel like with he and I, we kind of have a sense of what we're getting into already with each other. So I'm interested to see how it goes, and digging the color scheme, by the way.
Thank you so much. Digging yours. We're matching with red and black. I like that. Mr. JW, I'll put you backstage and bring you right back.
All right.
Appreciate you, my friend. Guys and gals and pals. Mr. Hall of Famer. I need 3 hands to count how many titles this man has won. 3. But you know what? I also need more space. I need more headspace to fit everything this guy has taught me with his knowledge and how vast it is. This man, guys and gals, I think was built for this team challenge and our tournament. Guys and gals and pals, fee, fi, fo. It means that something large has arrived, and here is a mind that elevates everyone listening to the show. He's ahead of his time, specifically right behind this dope rhyme. His potential opponents in this tournament, he's ripping it up during prime time. He's Optimus Prime material, the wizard of intellectual havoc. He eats lies like cereal. I'm talking about soggy, milky skills like Mr. Miyagi. If you're feeling froggy, step up and face him, as his knowledge will make you foggy. It might be his time to shine, as he can redefine the crystalline biological structures implanted in your mind, because in this grand tournament, you won't find anyone who's deaf, dumb, and blind. He'll hit you with wit, more than just a bit, like 1992 David Spade. You might burn when exposed to a psychological grenade. Perhaps his future opponents will all have prayed, hoping that they won't have to face him for another decade. So as we prepare for many battles that are positive, not mean, let's remember that losing will hit you hard like a 16th century guillotine. So I can't digress, as these rhymes go express, expert, and extreme. Put that on some meme. You hear that, guys? You hear that? He's about to enter this intellectual arena as he makes his way. Let us all listen to what he has to say and respect the message that he will always convey. He subscribes to loyalty over royalty, as wealth is not something you can buy. Try to outwit or outsmart him. Give it a try, but your truth, dissected by him, will turn into a lie. From day number 1, he has not only been an ally, but a man I owe a lot to, because he's a man that stays grounded even though he can fly. Yes, he soared to heights all of us can only dream of, yet his reality is much more fulfilling than anything the Sandman can sprinkle. His wholehearted and genuine sentiments can inspire anyone, even a lazy old Rip Van Winkle. He's a WWE Hall of Famer, 10-time tag team champion, TV champion, podcast host, speaker, and a man that helps those less fortunate and kids who yearn to learn, because his wealth of knowledge is like an intellectual buffet. So sit back and enjoy your dinner. Maybe it's a filet or a creme brulee or perhaps some other entree, because he fills a blank canvas with beautiful works of art such as black and white, but he explores the gray. For 7 years, his intellectual prowess and friendship are more valuable than some payday. He will educate you on the history. There's no mystery when it comes to his wisdom. Take it in like a Broadway play, because it has more layers than mid-90s lyrics from one Dr. Dre. So let's bid adieu to these rhymes tonight, as they will now go away, as we put our hands together for a legend of a human being, a dear friend. First name Stevie. Last name Ray. Welcome to the Team Challenge, my friend.
I'm here, man. Appreciate it again. Appreciate the intro again. You never cease to amaze me, bro. You never cease to amaze me. Yes.
Well,
and
yeah.
And who is my partner again? I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with him. Who is he?
You tell me you forgot about Jarrell?
Who is he?
Man,
the only
Jarrell, maybe
the only Jarrell I know. The only Jarrell I know sent his son to Earth.
Yeah, right.
and the world been trying to find him ever since.
That is true. That is true. So what he's saying to you in those certain terms, you better be super like that man wearing the cape.
Yeah, I got the wrong shirt on.
What's up, Jarrell? What's up, Jarrell? What's up, brother?
Good to see you. How's it going?
You too, man. Going well, man. Going well.
Yeah,
going well.
God willing, ready to do this.
I've been doing this. This is my third conversation on video today. So I'm
Stevie, the one you've been looking forward to the most, because again, the Team Challenge TKN style, as you know, guys, Stevie and I, man, we always not only keep it real, but what we do is we make sure that we give you a slice of reality. But that's what you guys are going to do. This is high stakes. The winner gets a huge prize. Let me bring in Joe Risitano and Matt Fink right now. Joe, welcome. And Mr. Dr. Fink, Dr. Matt Fink. Here we go. This is Team Stevie and J.W. Now, guys, I'm going to explain the rules to our new viewers as well. Some of you already know, but I'll zip right through it. Essentially, unlike Saturday night, where it's one and done, where if you essentially don't get enough votes, you're eliminated, this is sort of a regular seasons type challenge, where right now a win will reflect in the standings, as will a loss. There are no eliminations, not until we get to the playoff round. The playoff round will feature 8 out of 10 teams in a playoff type system. The 1 seed will face the 8 seed, the 2 will face the 7, the 3 will face the 6, and then the middle seeds 4 and 5 will face each other. Teams 9 and 10 in the standings won't make the playoffs, but we're going to be enjoying this for now. We're going to do this every week with different matchups, regular season style. Now, here's how it works. All of you in the comment section will be voting on who resonates most with you, because unlike what's going on out there in civilization, over here, a vote means that you respect someone or they resonated with you. We have a positive audience, and we appreciate you guys for remaining that way. Here's how it'll work. I have categories that I've selected. These different categories will be presented to JW, Stevie, Matt, and Joe. They will select a category, and then I will read them out their topic. And once they hear their topic, they can go backstage and just sit back for about 5 or 10 minutes, organize their thoughts, if you will, because this is a very spontaneous tournament. Unlike Saturday, where you get to do your research, this is a bit different. It's high octane. So essentially, again, once the topics are read out loud, if Dr. Fink goes first, his teammate is Joe Risitano. And guys and gals and pals, when Mr. Fink is finished with his topic, if Joe wants to secure extra bonus points for his team, he can continue or offer different viewpoints, or maybe continue on that same trajectory as Dr. Fink. Once Dr. Fink is done, Joe can proceed. He doesn't have to. That's optional. When Joe is delving into his topic, Matt Fink could do the same. He can request to give his own viewpoint as well, if he'd like to. Those are bonus points. After each top, of course, JW and Stevie Ray could do the very same thing as well. Now, again, that's not mandatory. Once the team of Joe and Matt are finished, Stevie and JW will get a chance to steal some bonus points, because they can tackle that same topic if they want to. Even though they have their own, they can tackle their opponent's topics if they'd like to. It's all optional. We will be voting after each topic, guys, with judges and with all of you in the comment section. So with that, here's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to read the available top categories. And don't worry, because I've conceived several topics for each category, so you can pick the same one twice or 3 times if you want. No problem. It's all been prepared for you guys. I'm going to start with Stevie. Stevie, of the topics available, or the categories, I should say, we have philosophy. We have United States historical figures. We have pro wrestling. We have improv. and we have cinema. I'll repeat it again. We have philosophy, United States historical figures, pro wrestling, improv, cinema, and music. I did forget music. Guys watching again, I'll speed through it. Music, cinema, improv, pro wrestling, United States historical figures, or philosophy. Which would you like to pick, Stevie?
Since I am a pro wrestler, I think it's evident.
Pro wrestling? Okay. And guys,
no, that's not what I said. I said it should be evident. But I'm going to pick.
What a swerve.
That's pro wrestling, brother. You got to remember that.
You're right about that.
But United States historical figures.
Got it. Brad Platt, welcome. Spanish Fly Angel Miguel, welcome. Thank you guys for watching and commenting. Eric, welcome. We will address you as well because you guys are the engine that makes this whole show go. Okay, historical figures. I'm going to ask JW again. I'm going to hear the categories. JW, we have philosophy, United States historical figures, pro wrestling, improv, cinema, or music.
Pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling. So Stevie picks United States historical figures. JW picks pro wrestling. Mr. Matt Fink, you could pick the above or anything else. We have philosophy, United States historical figures, pro wrestling, improv, cinema, or music.
Improv is interesting. Is that going to be
performative? Yeah.
Doing improv myself?
Correct.
For that? Oh, you have to come up with something like I'll get a topic and have to improv on top of that.
Right. I'll lay out the scenario if you pick improv. Yeah. Interesting.
Oh boy, that's a good one. Okay, I haven't done that in a long time. I skipped that for now. Okay, what comes after improv? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll read them again. No problem. We have philosophy, United States historical figures, pro wrestling, improv, cinema, or music.
Let's go with cinema.
Cinema. And Joe Risitano, do you want me to read them again as well?
I think for this one, I'll also take cinema.
You will take cinema as well. Okay, and Stevie will take historical figures. Okay, got it. And JW is taking wrestling. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do just to decide who goes first. JW, pick a number between 1 to 10, my friend.
1.
Stevie?
5.
Joe?
7.
Nope, Matt?
9.
Stevie?
I said 5. I need to say it again.
Another one. It's no one hit the number yet, Stevie.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. 2.
2 it is. Stevie and JW can decide if they go first or second. Would you like to go first or second, Team Stevie and JW?
What do you think, JW?
I mean, yeah, let's kick it off.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the Fink and Joe kick it off.
Dr. Fink and Joe.
The musicians.
Musicians, yes. This is going to be really interesting. Now, again, guys, I do want to say this again one more time. Can't give them the official plug like on Saturdays, but Progresso Soup, thank you guys and gals for believing in us. I will be chowing down on some of this stuff backstage while I am learning from Stevie Ray, JW, Joe Rizard, and Mr. Dr. Matt Fink. Guys and gals and pals, a big prize to whoever wins this whole tournament, which is unannounced, but it does have a lot to do with something out west in the film industry. A lot of good stuff here. All right, so here we go. Dr. Fink and Joe, which of you would like to go first of your team?
I'll go first. I don't care unless Joe wants to. If he's got his heart set on it.
Not particularly.
Okay.
We'll go cinema.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to read. Now, guys, again, the way it'll work is Matt Fink will be on screen, and he'll be surrounded by JW and Stevie Ray while he's presenting. While he's presenting, JW and Stevie will be there, kind of in between him. Joe will be backstage. When Matt Fink is finished, he'll let me know that he's finished, and then I will bring Joe up. And Joe will let me know if he wants to continue for some bonus points. If not, I'll ask Stevie and JW if they would like to proceed forward and collect some bonus points as well with this topic I'm presenting for Dr. Matt Fink. So cinema it is. A lot of us old school remember the End of Time Machine when Rod Taylor took 2 books Back to the Future to rebuild society. But suppose there's a great zombie apocalypse that destroyed Hollywood. Very simple question. What 3 films would you use to rebuild Hollywood? What 3 films, past or present, would you use to rebuild Hollywood, and why? Now, I'm going to put Matt backstage and Joe backstage as well, so they can kind of think about this a little bit. I'll also put Stevie and JW backstage so they can think about this if they already have 3 films that they'd like to select. Now, I'm going to read this out again. Let's bring in some of our judges. Howard, let me see you here.
Yeah.
All right, Phil.
Man.
You, Phil.
Hey.
Giselle. Okay,
Hi.
and Miranda. All right, so I'm going to read this topic out loud to our judges as well as all of you. How are you, Angel? Nice to see you, Ed, Brad. Here's the
Hello.
topic that I'm giving Mr. Matt Fink. If you could pick 3 films that you would use to rebuild Hollywood in this fictitious zombie apocalypse, right? There's a zombie apocalypse that took place. It destroyed all of Hollywood. Destroyed everything. What 3 films would you use to rebuild Hollywood? Now, is that a creative question? Are we picking films that survived the wreckage? Films we'd like to have survived? Dr. Fink can approach this any way he'd like, but he has to pick 3 films that he would use to rebuild Hollywood after the wreckage in this scenario. Now, don't give us ideas. You're the judges. Question to Phil first. Phil, would you have picked cinema as your topic?
Probably not.
No.
I'm a cinema buff, but of those topics, I probably would have picked something else.
Howard?
I would have picked, being what I'd learned from my last time here is try and get some points on the board right away. So I would go with something I'm, a little comfortable with. So I would go with music.
Music, Miranda?
I was thinking next time to challenge myself and go with improv.
Improv.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely challenging. Giselle?
Out of the categories tonight, I probably would have chosen improv.
Improv. Gotcha. A big hello to some of our luminaries who are watching, who I see. Thank you, guys. This is the Wednesday's Black Box. Saturday's sort of a primetime real estate, but Wednesday's slowly but surely taking over as well, guys. Wednesday nights are happening. They're live as well. This Saturday night, as I announced, I think you guys know this. What a foursome. We have comedic legend Tommy Davidson in his second-round matchup of the Celebrity Tournament. We also have WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley in his second-round matchup of the Celebrity Tournament. If that's not enough, Ferguson Jenkins, who's a Cooperstown Hall of Famer, Baseball Hall of Famer, Ferguson Jenkins, and of course, Oscar-nominated storyteller and actor Larry Hankin. It's a 4-way match this Saturday. 3 out of 4 advance. That's going to be quite the whopper, won't it?
Oh,
yeah. That's a strong competition there.
You have.
I think whopper is an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely. I think it's going to be a masterpiece when it comes to being able to delve deeply with these 4 men who are never at a loss for words, and I mean that in the best possible way because they educate and they can go so many places. But guys, here's the place you're going to go to now. You're going to go backstage as I bring in Mr. Matt Fink, Mr. Stevie Ray, Mr. J.W. They'll be on screen as well with Matt. Joe will be backstage, and you guys are going to take your notes for this first topic that we have tonight. Okay, Mr. Fink. Go, my friend. Dr. Matt Fink, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I've been backstage trying to figure out what films could rebuild Hollywood. And this is a tough question, I think. But the question is, when you say rebuild, is it films that you want to put out there again for the survivors to go watch?
Yeah. They could be, sure.
To watch after they're trying to, come back after destroying all the zombies?
Right. You're trying to rebuild civilization, and you're thinking that maybe perhaps the survivors could watch some of these films that you've chosen, and maybe, just maybe, slowly but surely, we can get inspired to create art again through these 3 films.
Okay. All right. I would probably go with cautionary type tales. And the first one I would pick would be 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it takes you on this journey of evolution with mankind and shows our potential and kind of what we went through. That was one. And then you probably have to show, films like the Westerns and showing ones that were building the West. And in particular, I'm trying to think of one that would be a good example of that. Probably, something like Wagon Train, or was that a TV show? I can't remember for sure. But that shows the pioneer spirit, and rebuilding and showing how they went out into the West and built the country by hand, because they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to live off the land somehow, right? And who knows if the electric grid is down? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, there's got to be more detailed. It's very nuanced as to, who's surviving, what's left of civilization, Who's going to watch the movies and what cinemas where and how it's distributed? It's very complex when you think about it. Or will there be enough survivors that they're just going to show them for free to educate people? So there's
Or
3
they could even,
films.
or they could even be for yourself if no one has been spared but you, and maybe you need these 3 films for yourself for whatever reason.
As inspiration to learn from?
Either learn from or maybe to rewatch and rediscover.
Okay. Well, those 2 Western films, like country, like stuff that shows the rebuilding of things. Let me think. I can't, right offhand, I'd have to. I'm not a huge Western movie watcher anymore, but John Wayne films, any number of, anything depicting the Wild West kind of stuff. And then 2001 showing the technology and, where we started out as apes, and then we evolved into these beings that had all this technology, which obviously the people who are surviving are going to remember the technology we developed, hopefully, at that point, and we'll be able to use it. I mean, if they're going to watch these films somewhere, whether it's on technology that's not like a phone or an iPad or whatever, or a computer, if they still have electricity flowing, they could do that. But it's just, if it's just for me, I would remember those films, and just for sheer entertainment. I love any kind of musicals, but that doesn't teach me anything. You know what I mean? So I would say definitely a World War I movie like 1919, one of those newer ones that shows the folly of war. Or 1917, was that the film? That's what it was. It was out a couple years ago. It was a great World War I film that won an Academy Award. Very, very, realistic. It showed what everybody went through. That's kind of an important one. So, teach people to be peaceful and start over and find education through film if they can find it. But those 3 kind of say avoid the war, learn how to rebuild through ingenuity and building cabins out in the wilderness if there's no electricity. But then how are they going to learn how to do that unless there's electricity? It's kind of a conundrum in a sense.
Yeah.
But as I think about it, I'm just kind of like looking at it from this perspective, because
sure,
if they've destroyed Hollywood completely, and I'm one of the few survivors, how many films would I be able to have? Or would they be archived somewhere? Could I even watch the films I want to watch?
I think that in this scenario, you're able to.
Okay.
Frequency, quality, usage, I don't know, but you're definitely able to screen these films.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are some great selections that you made too. Absolutely.
I could think of a whole lot more too, though.
Sure.
I'm just trying to think of 3 that give inspiration to rebuild something. And I'm trying to think of the ones.
I thought you would have went with the Harlem Globetrotters Go to Gilligan's Island. No?
Was that an actual film?
Yes. Yes, it was.
I never saw that or even heard of that. That's hilarious. Now I'm going to look that up on YouTube.
You got to see it. It's the last Gilligan's Island episode, actually, officially.
You know what? Maybe I did see it when I was a kid.
It's a guilty pleasure.
Well, believe me, after school, when the reruns were on, as a kid, first we watched them when they were first run, of course.
Right.
Before VCRs. And then after you got home from school for the reruns, you'd still watch them then occasionally. So, yes.
Man, I made the mistake of my mentor Richard Donner directed Gilligan a lot of episodes, and when I met him, I heard he loved the Gilligan character, and I did the worst Gilligan impersonation ever, and I got off to a really bad start with Richard as a result. Really bad start. The guy told me, "Is that the best you can do? Is that Gilligan?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, well, don't do it." That's all I needed. A week later, guys and gals and pals, he told me a story about being on set on Gilligan's Island and how there was a lot of turmoil for the wrong reasons. Not for creative reasons, but because they didn't want the show to go to syndication. How about that? The actors did not want this show to go to syndication. They could almost feel being typecast. Every last one of them. We just lost someone right now from that cast. I forget who it was, but I think it might have been the movie star. I forget her character's name. I think she's actually still alive. She might be the only survivor. Dawn Wells. We lost Dawn. I know that. We lost her about
That was a few years ago now, a couple years maybe.
Yeah, a couple years back.
Year or
I
two.
wonder if the cast of Gilligan's Island in this scenario would screen Gilligan's Island. They probably wouldn't. They probably wouldn't want to see that ever again.
No, but so those films I mentioned, I wasn't unable to come up with a definitive title of a pioneering depiction of survival techniques. And that I don't know how many movies there are out there that really could educate you about that.
That's true. No, that's
a
good.
That has a plot line, like an actual Hollywood film. But you can at least draw inspiration from those films, from those genres I mentioned. I hope.
Great selections, guys. Again, listen to Dr. Fink and his choice and his selection, not mine. Do not watch Gilligan's Island. Go to the Harlem Globetrotters, or the Harlem Globetrotters go to Gilligan's Island. Let's see where he's going to go. Joe, you have the option of getting some bonus points off the bat if there are 3 films that you would like to select, because this isn't your topic, it's Matt's. That's your teammate. But do you want to provide 3 films?
I actually would like to provide 3 films if I could.
Thank you, Joe. Help me, teammate.
I want to say off the bat that I think that I liked where you were going with that, because at first you said somewhat cautionary, but you also said to give the inspiration to rebuild. But for me, I wanted to give 2 films that I thought were cautionary, and then 1 film that I thought, because of all the depressing matter that those first 2 films caused, would be more of an inspiration and also something that could make people laugh.
What do you got?
So the first film I chose as a cautionary tale was Salo, or 1,000 Days of Sodom, which was to show people if we were to, or when we had, if we ever did get into a dictatorship or a fascist dictatorship, what people could take advantage of and what emotional toll that would take, and what specifically could happen if we get to that place, and things that we need to stay very far away from, not allow.
Oh, you mean like where we are in 2025? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Well,
and then the second movie is Come and See, which instead of showing from a soldier's perspective, which I appreciate 1917 being able to show from a soldier's perspective what the war was like at that time, I chose Come and See because it shows from a village boy's perspective, as he's both roped into war in World War II and he sees the horrors of it. There's specifically a 20-minute scene that takes place where you see his entire village being taken over, destroyed, people placed in a church and burned alive. And it's very harrowing, it's uncut, and it's urging the audience to just look at it, but also to take from this has happened. It may be able to happen again, but the thing that you need to take into account is this is something that was very real, and to have a reverence for these situations and not to take this as lightly. And then the last movie I chose was Looney Tunes Back in Action, because I thought after all that depressing matter, we need something where there's a horrible situation that could happen where an evil scientist of a corporation is trying to turn the universe into mindless, literal monkeys to make and produce mass merchandise that doesn't work. And then
you mean like the NBA fans who claim that Michael Jordan was the greatest of all time?
You're hitting it out of the park again, Avi.
Oh, am I off?
And then he turns them back into humans. He turns them back into humans.
Because you can't argue with them.
I can't.
You can't argue with the MJ fans.
I mean, it's true though.
I can't. It's true. It's true. But I can't argue with it. But in turn, turning them back into humans, so they buy the crappy stuff that they've chosen, and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck go to solve this problem, and they travel throughout the world, and they meet tons of different cartoon characters from the Looney Tunes category, and it's just really fun. It features Brendan Fraser, so it's a feel-good movie, and those are the three that I would choose to bring at that time after a zombie apocalypse, because you need to look at what can happen, what may have happened or has happened, and that this is what
Plus,
you
I
do
think
not
that
want
if there
the
are any
world to
zombies
become.
alive, I think if there's any zombies left, they could get distracted by Looney Tunes. I could see that happen.
They could get distracted by Looney Tunes, and Looney Tunes back in action could be the perfect movie to change that landscape for
Like
them.
anything, you could play the most like intellectual piece in the world, but Looney Tunes will definitely entice them.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Again, look outside, right? I mean, anyway, guys and gals and pals, Mr. Stevie Ray, Mr. J.W., they'll have a chance to delve into this topic and steal some points as well if they'd like to. Stevie and J.W., would you want to jump in with 3 films of your own?
I would.
Okay.
I actually would, because correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the question was, after the apocalypse, the goal we're trying to achieve here is to rebuild Hollywood.
Rebuild Hollywood. And guys and gals and pals, remember, after JW and perhaps Stevie as well, this topic will be complete, which means the judges will be voting. Will they be voting for the team of Joe and Matt Fink or the team of JW and Stevie Ray if they stole this topic somehow? And you guys will be voting in the comment section. JW, take it away.
Yeah, so in the realm of answering the question, which is actually rebuilding Hollywood.
Right.
The first film because we have to assume here it's been an apocalypse. Like you said this. You said Hollywood is in shambles. There's rubble everywhere. So it's either I'm by myself or there are other people here with me that also want to rebuild Hollywood as well. And I'm gonna just like throw this out there. I'm assuming the people that are with me attempting to rebuild Hollywood, we're all not from Hollywood. So therefore we have to learn how to do this in order for us to rebuild it. So right out the gate, the first film that I would choose is The Truman Show, because The Truman Show was a movie about a bunch of people making a movie or a TV show. It gives you that behind the scenes where if we're trying to rebuild Hollywood, we need to know how to do that. So watching a movie where the entire cast is actually the people that are creating this television show, it provides us with the knowledge of how to do the behind the scenes, and it also provides us a chance to study from an acting standpoint.
Okay.
The second film that I would pick is Hollywood Shuffle. So, because Hollywood Shuffle was a movie about a man who was trying to get into Hollywood. So he was going on auditions. He was being typecast. There was a lot. It actually shows the negative side of Hollywood, so we know what things to stay away from and what tropes, like what taboo things like to not do. It's a perfect example of how not to treat people that are actually trying to make it in Hollywood. The third film that I would pick is any film from Jackie Chan, because at some point we're actually going to try to do action here. It's not just going to be drama and comedy. And
could you pick one specifically?
Well, all right. Who am I? The Jackie Chan film, Who Am I? But the reason why I picked Jackie Chan is because at the end of every Jackie Chan film, he shows you the behind the scenes of how he did the action sequences. So if we're actually going to rebuild this thing, we need people to show us how to rebuild it. So I picked three.
Glad you went with Jackie Chan, not Charlie Chan. That's a different story. Yeah.
So I'm picking those 3 movies because those 3 movies, I feel like it helps with the goal, which was the question. Those 3 films actually will teach us how to rebuild this thing.
Gotcha. Great comments here, guys. And that's JW. Good point, says Eric. Will E. Wilson. I like Matt's answer. I love the Looney Tunes answer from Joe, says Eden. Thank you so much. War Wounded but Heroes. Guys, you're going to be voting in the comment section momentarily. Stevie, would you like to add to that as well and get some more points for your team?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
But the way the question was asked about an apocalypse, destroying Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. The rest of the world, the way I'm looking at this, it's the rest of the world intact, and only Hollywood has been.
You have no idea. You have no idea finding out.
Okay,
that's where you are.
If I put that in context, that would mean society must be built first, because Hollywood is a derivative of society.
Here's the thing, Stevie, and I see what you're saying, and I knew you would go there. I had a feeling. However, if you right now are not even, if you were tasked with a mission, perhaps, okay, maybe this is something I didn't bring up. But let me add another layer to this. Hypothetically speaking, some supreme being or power is
Mhm.
tasking you with
Mhm.
picking 3 films
Right.
that can help revive Hollywood.
Mhm.
And with the knowledge of what happened to the rest of society after you complete this task, which 3
Mhm.
films would you pick?
But then that's a whole nother question than the one you asked first.
Well, that's a
I
response to the
want,
question
you know
that
what I'm
you
saying?
asked, so I can make sense of it for you.
Excuse me?
I want to make sure that it makes sense in this scenario without you having to worry about the rest of society and whether or not they're still with us.
Okay. Okay, I get that. Okay, then. So when it comes to rebuilding Hollywood or trying to make a film where people in Hollywood can get it,
right?
So they will be more. They have a better outlook on not letting this apocalypse happen again.
Sure.
So my first film would be The Day the Earth Stood Still. When someone from a foreign planet came down to try to teach the people on Earth how to treat each other.
Sure.
Because the other planets are neighbors. And your small grievances should mean nothing, but you're not intelligent enough to know this. That is why I'm here. My second film would be one of the 3 Star Wars films, The Empire Strikes Back.
1980.
I knew it.
Okay. My third film, to try to keep everything in context,
Yeah.
would be Birth of a Nation.
Ah.
Yeah. And if there's anybody that's out there listening that don't know that movie, please go look it up, watch it, and see what it foretells.
You're talking about the silent one from way back in the day, right?
Yes.
Which was binge watched by a former U.S. president of ours, guys. By the way.
Yes.
as well.
So that would be my 3 films.
That was a good choice. That was a good choice. I would have thought of. I did think of Birth of the Nation. I didn't pick it though.
Birth
of the Nation. You might have been afraid what people think.
I was a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I'm not.
But that's okay. Good for you. I'm glad you picked it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Birth of a Nation, guys. Dare I say it's one of those films that I despise, but it's one you have to watch. You have to see Birth of a Nation for historical context alone.
In essence, what I'm saying is we will have to give Hollywood certain genres to know what they used to do.
I see what you mean. How they impacted a society.
Exactly.
Right. Guys and gals and pals, you are listening to some great minds here. There's no doubt. Stevie Ray, Matt Fink, Joe Rizart, J.W., they're giving us a lot. And they can attest to this. They had no idea what these topics were. They weren't privy to it before tonight. And they are giving you their minds. Right now, guys, please vote. Which particular team resonate most with you? You heard Joe, you heard Matt. How do you take both their selections and put them on a scale? How do you do the same with Stevie and JW? That's up to you, guys. That is up to you. But we did have JW and Stevie jump in twice, so they get some bonus points. Let's bring in our judges, starting with Howard Collado. Let us know who you vote for and why.
Oh, God.
I'll jump into this. Gentlemen, a pleasure to be on here with all 3 of you. So, Matt,
the
Howard, there's 4.
There's 4 of us.
Yeah, his bias is showing.
And Joe, yes.
Can we get a new judge? Can we get an unbiased judge?
You know, I feel like we do. Maybe.
Howard, can you please tell us who's on the panel?
Stevie Ray, Matt Fink, Joe Risitano, and J.W. Yeah.
Thank you.
Was it hard to acknowledge JW?
Was that hard?
Was it difficult?
a little bit, yeah. But I'm going to try and be as unbiased as I can. I will have to say all 4 gentlemen gave some amazing responses, and JW. So, Matt, 2001 is a great pick. Literally, the film starts off with cavemen, and then it goes, about 600, 800 years into the future or something of that nature. I probably got that number wrong.
No, way wrong. but that's okay.
Yeah, I know this. I know the
I'm sorry,
sequence.
what?
The sequence is amazing, but I
Yeah.
forgot. Millions of years. I'm sorry, millions
all
of
right.
years.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
That's okay.
It was far away. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah. And then you talked about Wagon Train, which is also a great film because shows how, in a sense, how the West was built and how.
I'm sorry. Can I stop you right there? I got a question. Was Wagon Train a movie or a TV show?
I think it was both.
Okay.
I think they made a movie and then they did the TV
It was
show later.
it was a TV show that came from a movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a movie.
Okay. I was just wondering. I don't remember the movie. I do remember the TV show.
1940s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was an hour movie every week. So.
I almost got on my computer and looked up stuff on IMDb, but I thought that'd be cheating, so I didn't do that.
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
Howard Collado, you were off just by a little bit, but again, what's your criteria for voting?
Sure. So I'm looking for, just coherence of thought, clarity. Do you kind of organize your thoughts in a orderly, fashion? Do you go in depth? Do you go into detail in terms of what you're talking about as well? So those are kind of some of the parameters I'm also looking for in terms of voting tonight. Joe, you came in and you talked about 1,000 Days of Sodom, and it's a film. I have not seen it, but you gave me a good sense of what the film's about.
I can't go into what it's about really too much on here.
Yeah, but you gave us it looks at a dictatorship and what happens when society falls under. So it's a cautionary tale, which I did appreciate that. And then you talked about Come and See, and that was kind of a you talked about how it's you have to make sure that you show an audience to have reverence for that really very traumatic scene that it shows in that 20-minute cut that you were talking about. And then I love Looney Tunes. You need levity. I think levity. JW, is there something I said?
No, I'm just waiting for this to finish. Continue.
Howard, he's waiting. He's waiting for you to wrap up. Howard.
Yeah,
expert judging. I love Looney Tunes. Let's go.
Interestingly enough,
I don't think
JW.
Matt Fink knows this, but Howard and JW have a history here, and I asked Howard to remain civil and.
That's all good.
That was mistake. That was mistake number one, Avi.
Howard, please, if you can.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. I really am. Surprisingly, I mean, I thought pigs were flying. JW actually focused in on the topic.
But there you go, taking a shot at him again.
Oh no, I was trying to express that I was really surprised at the fact that he actually had a moment of he shared some clarity.
Proceed forward, Howard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how it's really about how you're gonna. He focused the topic back onto.
So Howard, I know what he was saying. I was listening.
Yeah.
Who are you voting for and why?
Stevie, I really appreciated what you brought to the table. JW, what he brought was okay. My vote's going to go to JW and Stevie Ray.
Thank you, Howard.
I'm biased enough, JW?
I mean, well, you can't argue with facts.
Guys and gals and pals, let's bring in Phil Justin, see who he votes for and why. Phil?
Okay. Take these off so I can read my notes. First of all, gentlemen, it was a pleasure listening to you all delve into this topic. Mr. Fink, good to see you again.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
We faced off in a Second Chance Bowl match.
Yeah.
The two of you and Ray Lloyd moved a lot of us, man. You guys were absolutely incredible that evening. Absolutely.
It was fun. I'm glad you and I both made it. So here we go. What I look for is a conciseness, getting to the point without too many tangents. I like to see a little passion, belief in what you're saying, some logic behind what you're saying, and a through line of thought where point A leads to point B. I like to see detail and so forth. So, Mr. Fink, the three movies you picked, excellent choices. Given the circumstances, as you put it, trying to rebuild. So what do we need to help us rebuild? Western movies, indeed. The pioneers went out there with nothing but their bare hands, a couple of crude tools, and they built their buildings, their cities. And we've come a long way from there. 2001 is a great choice also because, as you say, it shows the evolution of man, starting very primitive and then winding up in outer space. So I like that. It shows that, yes, we may have gone through an apocalypse here, but we can rebuild. And the other movie you said, if I can read.
Did I pick a third? Did I pick a third one, a definitive one? I don't remember.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Oh, the World War I movie.
Yeah, 1917.
Yeah, great movie.
A cautionary tale
Yeah.
about mankind's grappling with
Exactly.
war and peace.
We've gone through this apocalypse. It wasn't your typical war, this nation against that nation, but we were overrun by these walking dead, these zombies. But still, we don't want to have to go through that again. So I give you big props on your choices. Joe, coming in with some very good choices. A couple of more obscure films, but the way you described them, you gave them the detail I needed to understand them. That was wonderful. And who could argue with Looney Tunes? Come on. After going through this whole zombie apocalypse, and as you say, watching these...
Well, you're a Bugs Bunny fan because he was from Brooklyn.
Hey, I'm from the Bronx, baby.
Same thing.
Yeah, no.
It's the same thing.
No, trust me.
You know, there's a Brooklyn Park in Minnesota, Phil. There's a Brooklyn Park in Minnesota.
Good for them. I'm thrilled.
Do you know who the mayor of Brooklyn Park was?
No.
Jesse Ventura.
And you know what else? Wait a minute. You know what's really funny about all this? I'm going to be in Brooklyn Park tomorrow evening.
Oh,
wow. No way.
Yes,
No
I'm meeting a friend of mine in Brooklyn Park, which is about a 35, 40-minute drive north of where I live, which is I live on the south side of Minneapolis, and that's way on the north side suburb. I'm on the southern suburb side. So it's like driving across town.
Very cool.
But I'm going to be there. Synchronicity. Come on, here we are.
Synchronicity, guys.
This is
Phil,
calm.
continue the synchronicity, my friend, because you are doing a great job analyzing the selections of Joe Risitano, J.W., Matt Fink, and Stevie Ray. So we heard the films, Phil, so we know them. Our audience does. If you can, get deeper and deeper in terms of who you might be voting for and why.
Okay, first of all, so I may throw a quick choice out there myself. Again, given this horrific thing we've endured, why not show It's a Wonderful Life? Here's a man who has gone through hell and back, for his own reasons, and wants to give up on life, but because he has his family, he's able to overcome it. And I think at the end of the
They did that with Married with Children, but it had the opposite effect.
Yeah, that was a different story altogether. Definitely. But anyway, both Stevie and J.W. brought up some wonderful movies, all pertaining very nicely to the topic in detail. Right. But overall, I'm going to give this one to The Good Doctor and Joe Risitano. I thought they brought more to the table.
Appreciate that, Phil. Appreciate your viewpoints as well. Tallying in the back. Thank you, Phil. Let's bring in Giselle and see who she votes for and why. Good evening, Giselle.
Hello, good evening. Stevie Ray, Dr. Fink, welcome to the Black Box. Welcome to Wednesday nights. Great to see you again, JW, and Joe, as always.
Yes.
So for a question like this, I'm definitely looking for the whys. Why are we choosing the films that we are choosing? What purpose do they serve? How do they help us overall? And it seems like every single one of us has a different interpretation of this question, which is what is so brilliant about both this question and all of the answers. Some of these movies I know, some I know by name and haven't seen, some I haven't heard of before. But overall, the people who and the team who gave me the most reasons for showing what they're showing and how that would help society and rebuild Hollywood at this point are Stevie Ray and J.W.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your time, Giselle. And again, if you could tally in the back for now, I would appreciate that. You could tally in the back. Okay, judges' points and votes are worth 1. Of course, our engine. Guys, you can now officially vote. Matt, Willie Wilson votes for Matt. Team Matt and Joe. Matt will get my pick. Thank you for your votes. You guys could do the same as Willie Wilson voted. Let's bring in Miranda and see who she votes for and why.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Hello.
Welcome, Stevie. Welcome, Matt.
Hey,
This is a really interesting topic. I'm racking my brain thinking about it. I'm probably going to be thinking about it for a while. So complex, like you said, Matt. Very, very interesting and thought-provoking topic. I really liked your choices, Matt, with the cautionary tales and the war movie. And you said that, 2001 shows mankind's potential and reminds us of our potential and where we came from. Westerns show, how to build the land and how to, work with our hands, how to live off the land. That's really important. And then also 1917 showing war and how to be peaceful and how to not engage in war, that we all need to come together, especially in the time of a zombie apocalypse. I think all 3 of those points really tied in very well together, all 3 of those movies, to really rebuild mankind and Hollywood in general. I think that Stevie and J.W. also gave some really good choices as well. And so did Joe also. The Looney Tunes, that was a great option. I really liked that as well. And now that I know that Bugs Bunny's from Brooklyn and I'm from Brooklyn, so I think that really resonated with me. So I think that Matt and Joe took this one for me. And my criteria for this was how detailed you both were, the organization, like I said, going from start to finish, of how all these movies tie in together to rebuild society in Hollywood, and how it resonated with me, the resonation. So
appreciate that. Appreciate the deep dive our judges are taking. Thank you, Miranda. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we got some more votes here in the comment section. Again, if you guys can tally in the back, please do that. I don't see anyone doing that. It would help me greatly. Lester Cook, by a very close margin, I have to go with Team Stevie and J.W. And Ed concurs. I got to vote Joe. Oh, you're voting for Joe and J.W. on this one. You got to vote for one. I know it's tough. I get it. It is tough.
What are you talking about here? You can't do that. That's cheating. Okay.
Really good.
You have points count?
Half points count.
You have to me.
They do not. Guys, I put Miranda backstage. Here's what we're going to do right now. We're going to move forward because this topic is essentially finished up. This is all cumulative, so we'll find out after all 4 gentlemen have went who will, again, get a win tonight, and it will reflect in the standings. Here we go right now. Let's rotate it out for Team Stevie and J.W. Let's rotate it out. Stevie and J.W., who wants to go first with their topics? J.W. or Stevie?
Let Stevie go first.
Okay.
Stevie?
Yeah, okay. That's cool.
Now, again, I'm going to read this out. Once I do, JW will go behind the scenes. Stevie will delve into the topic, as he will. I'll put everyone backstage for a few minutes, actually, just so you guys can organize your thoughts. When Stevie's on screen again, Mr. Fink and Joe, again, much like Mr. Fink had Stevie and JW surrounding him, Stevie will have Matt Fink and Joe surround him as well. All right, here we go. This is a topic, United States historical figures. General George S. Patton. He was the embodiment of 20th century American patriotism. He didn't fight to live, he lived to fight. Patton said that a gentleman was someone who could swear profusely for half an hour without repeating himself. In pursuit of Pancho Villa, Patton got himself a T-model Ford. He mounted a Vickers machine gun on an improvised pedestal, and he went chasing the horsemen of Villa. At the Battle of the Bulge in World War II, he had an army chaplain compose a prayer asking for good weather that he might more effectively kill Germans. He was obviously an aggressive military tactician, as well as one who could display an abrasive personality. But let's talk about a specific incident that landed him in hot water. It was back then referred to as the slap heard round the world. In early August of 43, Patton slapped 2 United States Army soldiers under his command during the Sicily campaign of World War II. He slapped them. He had a lack of belief in the medical condition of combat stress reaction. You guys must be thinking, what the hell is that? Back then, it was known as battle fatigue or shell shock. We know what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
The soon-to-be commander-in-chief and United States president, Eisenhower, was not a fan of Patton or his tactics. Ronald Reagan was. My question for Stevie is, please make a case for whether or not you subscribe to General Patton's aggressive and hard-hitting methods when it came to rallying the troops literally. Please make a case for whether or not you subscribe to General Patton's aggressive and hard-hitting methods when it came to rallying the troops literally. Of course, Mr. Matt Fink and Joe Risitano could go the other way if they'd like. But right now, what I'd like to do is put everyone backstage so Stevie can organize his thoughts like all of us do with our topics. JW as well. And I will bring in our judges right now. Talk to them. Miranda, hello.
Hi.
And Howard and Giselle and Phil. So, yeah, let me ask you a question while Stevie organizes his thoughts. This should be definitely a very fun listen. Do you guys, Phil already had, I think, a couple. Did you guys have your own films in that first topic? Did you have films that popped in your mind right away? Films that you would have selected?
Not right away. I'm still thinking about that because I love this question so much. And there's so many different ways you can go with it. Am I showing what we did before? Am I trying to show some kind of historical version of humanity and everything they accomplished?
What would you prioritize? What, in terms of having a value system somehow interweaved into your film choice, what would you choose and why? Everyone has a different priority for picking a set film. Maybe it's because they want to inspire themselves. Maybe it's because they think there's life out there that needs to be inspired. There's so many different ways we can go about this. But which films popped out? Howard, any films popped in your head?
Again, great question. It made me think about like the excess of Hollywood and how that could be so detrimental to a lot of performers and the environment in general. So I thought about the film There Will Be Blood and how his, the main protagonist, his, blind, desire to acquire wealth and prestige kind of, disconnected him from his own son, from society, from people. He ended up becoming his own lonely man. And I think in there, there's kind of a cautionary tale about what to try and avoid if you're going to rebuild Hollywood again, maybe. Yeah.
Interesting there. Miranda?
Like I said, I'm still racking my brain on this one because this is so interesting. But I think that if I had to choose, the one that pops into my head right away would be, and I don't even really like this movie that much, but I just thought it was so interesting, the concept, Leave the World Behind with Julia Roberts. I think that was Julia Roberts. And how they were stuck in this, place, and then the world kind of shut down, and all the technology shut down, and everything was going awry. And then
you guys are bleak. You're all picking movies that are depressing the hell out of you. I mean, it's all like you're already like, hold on, it's already like a horrific situation. We're talking about a zombie apocalypse, and then you guys are laying it on real thick by picking more depressing films. Now, if I'm the only survivor and I'm watching these depressing films that you guys are picking out of your toolbox, I'm probably not going to make it either. I'm going to join everybody else that's extinct. I'm not going to want to go on.
Well, yeah, that depends. If I was the only survivor, that's a different story. But if there was more people, I think this movie would be good.
I mean, what happened a weekend at Bernie's or Car Wash? I mean,
I might throw out Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
There you go.
Great film.
I could maybe put that one in there as one of my three. I don't know if I'm sold on it
Richard
totally
Dreyfuss
yet for this
he
question.
He leaves his family behind to visit a bunch of aliens who he never met before. Why did he do that? Nobody questioned that. We got like a tear in our eye and we're like, oh, that's so sweet. But he just left his family behind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We never questioned that.
Yeah.
He left his entire, like his kid is like, Daddy, where are you going? And he wasn't like one of those kids that, like he liked his kid. He was, a fan of his child. And he still, like he didn't care. He just went to the mothership and I don't know. Very, very weird ending.
Maybe a new family? I don't know.
I don't know either. Guys, let's put the judges backstage. Very insightful judges. A great panel. Howard, Giselle, Phil, and, of course, Miranda. Appreciate you a ton. Let's bring in Mr. Stevie Ray. Let's bring in Mr. Dr. Matt Fink and Mr. Joe Risitano. Right now, Stevie, are you good to go, my friend?
Man, I've been good to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Have I been keeping you? Have I been keeping you, Stevie?
I mean, we could have did 10 subjects by now.
10 subjects?
Yes.
That means you are ready to tackle this with gusto. I can't wait. I'm going to go backstage. Stevie's got, yes.
We could have did 10 subjects while Howard was trying to figure out was his belt adjusted or not.
Well, in all fairness, JW's kind of throwing him off a little bit, right, Howard?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh.
See that, yeah. But guys and gals and pals, here's what's not going to throw you off. Mr. Stevie Wade presenting, logically as he always does. My friend, the floor is yours.
I mean, when we talk about George S. Patton, what people don't realize that this was the most feared general that was attached to the Allies. The Germans were scared to death of this guy. Now, when you ask a question like, do I agree with his methods? I can only say this, and I can make this comment coming from me looking at World War II. What we were looking at in World War II was fascism possibly taking over all of Europe. And then you had one of their allies, Japan, in the position to take over the whole Orient. And then you had Italy, I don't know, possibly being a ruler over North Africa. That is a big part of the world. So when I'm asked a question like a man's ethics and his practices, when it comes to the big portion of the world being enslaved by 3 countries, who am I to question George S. Patton's ways to pretty much discipline his soldiers? I'm not a soldier. I've never been in the army. I don't know what it takes when you see death, mayhem, and destruction all around you on a daily basis, and you got a job to do. But George S. Patton always got the job done. Maybe people agree with it, maybe people don't. But when you're talking about war, I don't think you can use the same discretions as you use as a principal discipline a child in school. I don't think so. And at the end of that, where George S. Patton actually really got a lot of heat for himself. George S. Patton, and a lot of people don't know this, actually wanted to finish up what he did in Europe with Germany, and then he wanted to go to Russia and conquer Russia while they were already down and almost defeated. He said, attack them while they're already in despair, because he said, and it came true, we're going to have to fight them anyway, so let's do it now. So at the end of the day, when it comes to war, I have to look at it by stepping back and looking at the results. Because without Patton, would they have been different? And this man stood on that. And a lot of people, if you read the history of Jordan Patton, like I have, he was so staunch in his beliefs, he didn't even get a chance to enjoy what he did because he got killed in an automobile accident in Germany a few months after the Germans surrendered. Was he killed, or was the accident a real accident? To this day, we'll never know.
Appreciate that. And again, what Stevie brought up, it's absolutely true. Patton proposed to have a very controversial plan to invade the Soviet Union. And if people were going to ask what made it controversial, what his plan, why it was controversial, after the war, he suggested rearming the German military to assist on this endeavor. So that made it very controversial. So much that I couldn't even teach this in classrooms when I taught history. I taught United States history, and again, I was instructed to not delve into what was happening in Europe.
Right.
The Soviet Union was annihilating countries like Hungary at this time, by the way. There was no interference from us. Patton had a bit of an influence, but it didn't go deep enough. Nobody really took that plan into consideration, but we were close. We were close to rearming the Germans and essentially directing our attention towards the Soviets. So
if Patton had his way, there would have never been a Cold War.
If he would have had his way. If he would have had his way.
And the United States,
yeah.
the United States would have controlled Western Europe and Eastern Europe.
Yeah, but then again, he was also critical of.
I'm not saying that's right.
Right.
I'm not saying it's right.
Right.
I'm just saying the mindset of a general.
But he was.
He knows nothing but war. That's all he knows.
Of the denazification program.
Yes.
After the war. So there's sort of a tale of two tapes, and that's why I'm glad. I conceive these topics because I'm glad we're talking about people that are controversial, because there's so many different ways to approach a person based on their ideology. For instance, can you believe and subscribe to one policy and yet maybe disagree with 50 others? Can you agree to 30 and maybe disagree with 12? Or is it so absolute? Is it so rooted in something personal in us to simply detest someone because they don't speak our language? Militarily or otherwise. That's Stevie Ray, guys and gals and pals. I'm going to ask right now, J.W., his teammate, if you'd like to add some bonus points and jump into this topic, Mr. J.W.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to add to it.
Floor is yours.
And thank you. And keeping with the question, the actual question that you asked, like you said, is it, do we feel that it's right? Like, what's our thought on his tactics as far as doing that? And I do agree with Stevie, because at the end of the day, he was the man in charge on the battlefield behind the front lines. So we'll never know what he saw, that made him do the things that he did and made the choices that he made. But with what you said, it's interesting to me because you didn't say the controversy of him was that he berated his entire unit and he was just like running wild. Right. You specifically said the controversy was he slapped 2 people, not the whole platoon, two people.
Yeah,
and who were arresting. Again, you have to understand the context, right? So they were injured severely. He felt that they can still get up and fight, and he made sure that he let them know that he felt that they can get up and fight while they were healing in a hospital bed.
See, but the reasoning behind that, when in previous jobs, like I've been a manager, I've been a supervisor, I've been a person who was responsible for leading other people before. And the one thing that I learned early was the way that you supervise people, the way that you manage people, the way that you lead people, the same way you would lead one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And you have to supervise people differently. Like if the 3 of you worked under me at a company, the way that I approach Stevie Ray wouldn't be the same way that I approach Joe. The way that I approach Matt probably wouldn't work if I did that with Joe. You have to learn each individual personalities, and you have to, supervise those people and manage those people according based on who they are as a person. So with that being said, it makes me feel that if he specifically did that to those specific people, there was a specific reason or something with those 2 people where he felt that doing that would get the most out of those people. Because you didn't say he did it to all of them. He did it to those 2 guys. And with him being in the trenches, with those 2 people, who would be the best person to know how to get the most out of the situation?
This was another thing. I don't mean to. When you finished, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is another thing about Patton. He's a general. Yeah. In war, you never show fear in front of a general.
Yeah.
Because the first thing a person like Patton, because this guy was in World War I. In the early 1900s, this guy came from there. You are a bona fide, unadulterated coward in his eyes. So we're dealing with a different kind of human being here. So for us to judge him on the likes of what we see today.
Yeah, of course.
As far as disciplinary things go and this, that, and the other. You know, I'm talking about war. We're talking about war.
Yeah, we're talking about war.
We're talking about World
So
War II.
you're factoring historical context into this as well.
Yeah, of course, but of course,
Exactly.
because like he said, like
what JW is saying, 100% right.
like he said, we're at war, and that could have, like, him slapping them, that could have been him trying to motivate them to say, listen, this is real.
Yes.
This is a real
Yes.
life situation. Like,
Yes.
I understand that you're hurt, but we don't have time for you to be hurt.
Right.
You want to make it back home to your family. I need you to snap out of it because, you know,
Or if you want to make it out this hospital bed.
yeah, you know, exactly. Like, because
Interestingly enough, even though Stalin knew
thing.
about Patton's hostilities towards the Soviets, Stalin was actually a fan of George Patton and his leadership methods. Again, guys and gals and pals, we're exploring something that on paper maybe seems like an obvious answer or response, but to dissect it further with historical context, where do you go? There's some that can make a point and say, with all that, the man still slapped 2 U.S. American soldiers who were, one on his deathbed and the other who really couldn't go on. So again,
but for all we know, him doing that probably saved their lives overall.
Well, in the case of one, not so much, but in the case of the other, one was motivated and the other died 2 days later, not as a result of being slapped by Patton, of course. Again, guys, what moral compass do you have? Do you factor in what Stevie and J.W. are saying as well? Give us your thoughts. I see you guys in the comment section. I appreciate your thoughts. That is J.W. and Stevie. I will ask Joe and Mr. Matt Fink if they want to jump in and add some points to their team as well by tackling this topic. Joe and Matt?
Yes.
I do.
I want to
Mr.
chime
Matt
in.
Fink.
Yeah,
Floor is yours.
definitely. First of all, I one thing you said initially when you asked the question, you mentioned that Eisenhower was not a big fan of Patton, correct?
He was not.
He was not. And the question was
a lot of the politicians wasn't.
Well, besides that, I'm curious, was he not a fan of Patton because of his policies or his other tactics on the battlefield
his
or
aggressive
things that
approach.
he was doing?
Mostly
Okay. All right,
Eisenhower
so-
was quoted as saying he wasn't a fan because of his aggressive approach. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from my standpoint, if you have 2 injured soldiers, one who is extremely seriously injured and critically, obviously, and the other one who is also, and for me, from a morale standpoint, to slap those guys into submission and possibly doing it in front of other soldiers that were in the hospital at that time, maybe witnessed this. I don't know. Do you know if anybody witnessed this event?
I don't think so.
No,
Okay.
not even in the barracks. In the barracks, they were told that this happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he did actually confess to it happening as well.
Yeah, and he said, "I'll do it again."
Okay, so did the soldiers say anything to anyone? Did the soldiers who got slapped and berated, did they talk about it with
One
anybody?
passed away 2 days later,
Right.
and the other one said that initially it didn't boost his morale, but then it did once he got back on his feet.
Interesting. Okay. Boy, this is a really it's a conundrum for me because like Stevie said, he'd never been in the military. I've never been in the military, but because I'm a very empathetic, compassionate person, I would have never done that to those guys. In fact, I would have thanked them for their service. If I was a general, I would have thanked them and said, I hope you recover. Thank you for doing what you did, and it's too bad you're injured. I feel bad for you, and thank you for your service. And you'll be receiving commendations for sure for what you guys did. That's how I would have approached it as a general. So I disagree with Patton doing that. I think it was wrong. And even though I'm glad that other guy felt better about it, but I don't agree with treating people like that unless they deserve it, and I don't think they did because they were injured in the trying to help with the war. Obviously they're trying to defend democracy. So that's my answer.
Funny thing is, when Eisenhower dressed down Patton one day, and as he was moving past him, both their knees collided, and Patton's question was, "Hey, watch your knee."
Oh God! Well, you know what? Wait, I forgot
No
one more
physical
thing.
contact with me.
Wait a
On the
minute. Yeah.
general.
Yeah, that's funny. No, and I forgot one more synchronicity thing here.
Yes.
I forgot to bring this
Yes.
up. My wife's uncle,
Okay.
who is her father's brother, one of his
Right.
brothers, my wife's uncle, was driving the Jeep the day before Patton had his accident. The Jeep
Wow.
that he was driving Patton around
No way.
the day before he died. Yes, this
That's
is
insane.
a story from my wife's side of the family.
Oh my!
It's
I'm sure.
corroborated.
I'm
It's
sure there
true.
were so many stories about that too. Wow.
Oh,
Yep,
man,
this
Oh
is
my gosh.
yeah.
well,
This
the
is my
Fink, the Fink, you keep surprising us, man.
yep.
The
Yep.
Fink, oh my goodness,
That's incredible.
That's right.
That is history.
unbelievable.
That is history. Yeah. I always relate to those stories much more than anything in a textbook. When I hear something like that, it penetrates my soul much more than anything in a textbook. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Risitano, my friend, it's optional, not mandatory. Would you like to jump in as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would. So I'd like to explore this from two different angles. One specifically from mentioning that, first off, I think that I agree Patton did things to aid in the time and the place that things were necessary. And somehow, in 1 in 1,000, fate played in his favor and he was able to get those gentlemen motivated. But at the same time, I want to also approach it from another angle, which is the angle of my grandfather, who was someone who heavily revered Patton. He was someone who was a military chaplain and was someone who believed in a lot of tough love and also understanding that if you had to get a job done, you had to get it in a certain way or it just wouldn't happen.
Mm.
But that said, he worked with a gentleman in all of his career named Mr. Frank Filkowski. And Frank was someone who was in Vietnam. And when he had come back, he had a ton of what was known as at one point shell shock and what is now regularly referred to as PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And from where my grandfather stood, a lot of care and compassion for his fellow veterans was mostly chalked up to if you weren't strong enough, you weren't able to get in line. But then he listened to one of his friends talking about Frank's situation, and as he got to know Frank, he noticed that he was actually a very strong person. But then he got to hear about all the things he had seen in the war, what he had physically gone through, ways of being shot at, things where he'd seen people be tortured, things where he noticed that it wasn't so simple. And to even bring up reading about Eisenhower, who, by the way, for those who don't know, was a 5-star general and was also someone that was very instrumental in helping storming Normandy. Am I wrong, Avi?
You're absolutely right.
Okay. He recalled that maybe the toughness.
He also was wise enough to pull us out of Korea.
Yes.
He was wise enough to pull us out of Korea. Korea wasn't looking good. The more we were advancing, it didn't look good for us, and Eisenhower did recognize it.
And he was the leader of the Allies, supreme leader.
Yeah,
right.
Of the Allies.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then he
So
became
in essence-
president. He was highly revered by the American public.
revered.
You know,
So revered.
Yes, and this is
he
someone
had
that
the
was
most simplistic sign of the times, right? We like Ike. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the slogan.
Yes, and in terms of leader of the Allies, he was the supreme commander.
Yes.
And my grandfather realized that from that position, more so of, let's say, the Eisenhower position, that through working with Frank, he took a lot of time and effort to just sit with him and learn from him, and not a gentle approach,
Right.
but being with him, staying with him, learning, taking time after time to talk with him and understand his position and why, and work through that to years enough, several years later, about at least 35 years, that man isn't what you would call cured, but he is someone that is in a better position than he was. But that's 35 years.
Yes.
Of consoling, working through, dealing with a man who had nightmares of things that I can't imagine. To now we're talking about Patton, who dealt with two individuals, one who didn't make it, the other one who, I mean, over years obviously passed on, but was still able to go through that, and yet took that chance and slapped them into reality. For some, it might work, but for others, what I am proposing is that it's not that simple, and we shouldn't be flippant, even if it is something that is a matter of time or it takes the point.
I personally think it's abusive, and I find it, any kind of physical abuse is wrong. And in this instance, it really feels wrong because these men were already injured in the line of duty. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about it. You can agree or disagree.
No, please.
But that's
there you go.
To all of us watching, and guys, again, to Prime out there who's watching the show, we appreciate your interest in TKN.
But
this is a living room style conversation, so please, anytime you guys want to interject, the floor is always yours.
But I get it. But I get why his mindset. That's the thing. I mean, he's a different generation, obviously, a different thing, and he had a different philosophy about how he felt. But it was just really too mean-spirited, and I felt it was wrong. Even though he thought he was right, I don't think it was the right thing to do.
And not even ask anybody what they thought overall. I don't think anyone really hit this. What does that do to the morale of the troops when they hear this story? How does that affect them?
I don't think it was. I don't know. That's the question.
Right.
And is there documented,
Yeah. So here's the thing.
record of that?
When the court of public approval handed down their decision on George S. Patton, everybody came out in droves saying they weren't a fan of his ideologies or his principles or his methods. Prior to that, everybody was singing his praises.
Right.
So one can never know.
But can I say this?
Yeah.
That is why I said I can't judge a man in that kind of area if you've never been in that kind of surroundings. I came up playing sports.
Right.
And I can tell Matt, Joe, and J.W. this. You don't really what I'm reading about George S. Patton, I wish some of my coaches would have had his same demeanor, because you never seen abuse unless you've been coached at a high level in sports. I mean, real abuse that never makes the television, that people never talk about, that you can't even go home and tell your parents about. I can put myself in that realm. But a soldier that's fighting for his life and fighting for a nation, actually a continent. You're fighting to save a continent, not a country.
Yeah.
Because where they were in Sicily, that's Italy. That they had already gotten back. So when you put yourself in that position, we wasn't there. We don't know. So that's why I said when I was talking earlier, I can't really judge a man, even though I know by our laws here in the United States of America and anywhere else, that is assault.
Yeah.
But I've witnessed assault, and I wasn't even getting paid for it.
Yeah, but
I'm just participating.
So
but that's why I said I can't judge.
Okay,
no, of course, but that's
Matt,
why
hold on, Joe. 1 second, Joe. Matt.
No, I'm just saying that the if he was going to behave that way, I think it would have been more appropriate towards soldiers who were being cowards and not like running away from the battlefield, that kind of stuff. That's possibly. But they weren't running away. They were injured. That's where it's wrong. These guys were injured already.
But
That's why it's wrong.
Like I said earlier, I don't know if you remember I said this. In Patton's world, if you read anything about George S. Patton, that everything that those guys were implementing was cowardly. It might not have been cowardly on paper, but in his mind,
It was, yeah, but they couldn't
Yes.
go back into combat. They were
I'm not debating that.
and
I'm
really, and
talking
that
about
even-
the individual. Hold
Yeah,
on,
Mr.
Albert.
Biden-
I'm talking about the individual who implemented this. That's what I'm saying. But you have to read about this guy. He didn't care about you liking him.
It led to
He
him
didn't care
publicly
about
being
anybody liking him.
lambasted by Eisenhower. It led to him publicly being.
He's a different kind of dude.
That's
man.
fine. I'm just saying. I'm going to judge it
I
from
understand.
my point of view. I disagree.
I'm not
I think it
debating
was
your
wrong.
point of view.
I disagree with it. I don't think it was
Yeah,
right.
I understand
And
that.
that's it.
I was
Okay.
just saying why I couldn't make an emotional expert on
I
that.
get it.
That's what I was saying.
Hold on, Joe. I want to read some comments from our viewers. I appreciate them. Julio, I think there's some things that also need to be considered, such as environment, the relationship between soldier and general, past experiences they all had together that led up to all of it. Safari, great input by Stevie Ray. Thank you, Mike. Great input by Dr. Fink. You guys, thank you in the comment section. Joe, I'm going to hold your thoughts because, again, due to time constraints, we have 2 more topics. I'm going to ask the judges if they can provide clarity, but let's kind of speed through who we're voting here due to time constraints. We still have 2 more to go. Howard, who do you vote for and why, good sir?
Sure. I definitely understand the desire to smack someone sometimes. But
And another shot to J.W.
Yeah, who do you ever hit?
No, it was just you could get so enraged. I get it.
Speed it up, Howard.
In that aspect of it, you could get enraged. But no, look, Matt. Again, you said something very, very logical. If he, he hit already an individual that was already injured. It wasn't like these guys, just got up. They were injured already. They were already in the line, on the battlefield. And
I want you to understand the judges, the question. Please make a case, and all 4 gentlemen did, for whether or not you, emphasis on that, you subscribe to General Patton's aggressive and hard-hitting methods when it came to rallying the troops, literally.
Right.
When it came to rallying the troops. Go ahead, Howard.
Yeah. I'm going to vote with Matt and Joe. And really, I really appreciated Joe's personal take on it when you talked about your grandfather and his experience as you were talking about it. So ultimately, that's really what won me over.
Howard.
Complex issue, but you guys all did well.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate that. JW, you have a rebutting the judge?
I mean, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of felt like Matt and Joe disagreed a little bit with the topic.
Well, yeah, they went the other way, which they could have.
Yeah,
That's kind of why we
they
call
went
it
the other
debating.
way. They went the other way.
So basically, Joe, you were saying that you didn't agree with it.
Well, if you see the bottom there in the ticket, the opposing
because the way you were talking, it almost sounded like you were either like on the fence or you were kind of like swaying towards agreeing with him. Right.
No, what I'm saying is, and this is what I was going to finish up on, is that someone took something for granted in a certain amount of time, and what I gave was an example of how someone could actually have been rehabilitated in real time, what that might look like compared to a matter of seconds, and that it's not just so simple as saying someone shouldn't just go like that.
Joe, in
So
5
I
seconds
don't
or
agree.
less, though. In 5 seconds or less, do you subscribe to those methods?
I do not.
Nobody
Okay.
does.
Okay. Stevie and JW don't as well. They said Joe says he doesn't. All right, guys, judges, let's come in here and we're going to speed through this as well. Phil, who do you vote for and why, good sir?
Okay. Stevie was very concise, which I like. Got right to the point. Had everything lined up. And by the way, my father fought in World War II. He was actually in Germany.
Much respect.
And overall, you have to, Stevie really put it down succinctly. It's his mindset. We're looking at the world coming under the rule of fascism and Japan taking over the entire Pacific, and it had to be stopped. Patton had a very tough job. He had a job to do. He got it done. I think it really boils down to that. Now, Matt and Joe brought up excellent points, too, on the contrary, and it's hard to argue with that, as JW also came in with some good points, but the bottom line is the job had to be done. There was no time to worry about people's feelings. It was do or die.
Your vote goes to Stevie and JW.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Phil. Thank you so much. Let's bring in Giselle and see who she votes for and why.
Hi. So what I would want to know is if I have people who aren't in the right frame of mind to do this job, I don't know if I would want them out there with me in the first place, because they might, who knows what they would do, really. If I can't trust them to do their job, I don't think any method would bring them around that quickly, and that could be just as devastating. But my vote for this topic is going to Matt, Fink, and Joe.
Appreciate you, Giselle. Thank you so much. Guys and gals and pals, I am tallying here as well in real time. Thank you. Let's bring in our final judge, Miranda, and see who she votes for and why.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to keep this short like me because I'm short. I'm going to go with Stevie and JW because Stevie gave a whole history lesson here. I feel like I learned so much about Patton and everything that happened in this scenario and his ideologies and everything. And I can say I don't know what it's like to be in the military either, or to be in war. I don't know what would help or what would hurt me. I guess he was trying to see who's tough enough or who can withstand it, because it's a very serious situation. It's life or death, you know? So I don't know. I mean, usually I am like Matt. I'm a very empathic person. I would never personally do that. But again, maybe it helped, maybe it didn't. But I agree with Stevie. I'm nobody to judge on that. So my vote goes to Stevie and JW.
Appreciate your insight, guys. Great judges here all around, guys. Again, we're at the shank of the evening. We're almost about done. Remember, we're just getting this thing started. We're just getting this concept started. So again, teammates will learn each other's speaking patterns and styles, and these topics will always be very deep. Even the next one for JW, pro wrestling. Now, you would think, wait a minute, what if Matt, Fink, and Joe don't watch pro wrestling? Well, the way I conceive these topics is I go to a certain place that allows everyone to jump in, because it's not the way you think. It's not a topic that covers something that only a wrestling fan would be privy to. So, JW?
Well, there goes that strategy.
That is how I'm transitioning to your topic right about now, my friend. Here we go. Pro wrestling, guys and gals and pals. Here is the one I have for JW. Again, he'll be able to go backstage. Same with Stevie and Dr. Fink.
It's up to you, JW.
Up to you. Now remember, JW will be surrounded by Matt, Fink, and Joe. Here's the topic. I call this a singular star with a question mark. Here's the actual synopsis, if you will.
Okay.
Having a superstar in a wrestling company, while often desired for boosting viewership and revenue, having a superstar may present some drawbacks for the company and the industry as a whole. Guys and gals and pals who don't watch wrestling, or those who do, it is a television series. You are watching a TV series, not a pro wrestling company. The drawbacks of having a potential star might be the star becoming bigger than the company itself. That could limit the company's control and narrative. That could potentially lead to the company losing focus on developing other talent. A superstar, especially one with a significant following, can sometimes exert undue influence on storylines and direction. Basically, they could be a prima donna. And that could hinder the company's ability to control the narrative and push its own agendas. But there are benefits. Superstars, with their charisma and fan following, can draw in viewers and keep existing fans engaged. They can be the face of the company, making a show recognizable, but even more important, guys and gals and pals, marketable. In addition, the presence of established stars can inspire and motivate aspiring wrestlers to join a company, outside people joining it. So please, JW, make a case as to why you would prefer having a larger-than-life superstar on your own roster, or not. You can go the other way as well. It is entirely up to you. I'm going to put you backstage.
Nah, I don't need. Actually, I don't need to go backstage.
Well, maybe the other guys do. So I'll put you backstage. Maybe the other guys do, because they're going to be jumping in as well. Joe and Mr. Fink and Mr. Stevie Ray as well. And bringing the judges. I'll put you in for about 5 minutes. Miranda and Howard and Giselle and Phil, come on down. Good stuff tonight. One more topic after this. We're going to speed through this. But again, the last topic we had, I'm glad you said you're learning a lot, because that is my objective here. I want us to learn from each other. I want us to take a topic that seemingly makes sense to one person and not so much to another, and have us let go and relinquish our egos. Open up these ears so this noggin can process other viewpoints. And that's how we get smarter. By accepting our limitations, we get smarter. By accepting what we don't know, we get smarter. And we definitely got smarter tonight, because Joe Risitano, Matt Fink, J.W, and Stevie Ray are in the house. Your thoughts, guys, on last topic as I go backstage for a moment.
Yeah, I think it was a really interesting, back and forth. 1 minute I'm agreeing with this one, and then on this guy says something, I'm like, wow. But it really was so enjoyable, so entertaining, and educational. Love it. Love it.
Oh, and Lester is voting again, a very close margin. And
yeah, he voted for Matt and Joe. And just let me read this from Ed. Ed, how are you, my friend? Ed, again, we are sorry for your loss, my friend. We played a tribute to his amazing friend Gloria the other night on Saturday, and that's what we're going to do here, guys. You guys are a part of this show. Ed, don't agree with abuse, but back in my early nukes, they made us really tough. Whether 72 hours a week bending rules today would not fly, it made me a better person, smarter. Okay, I did get Will E. Wilson's vote. I can't count all your votes, guys. Sharon, thank you for watching as well. I think I'm going to bring in, hold on. Eric says having a superstar can inhibit or create a following depending on your upper level management. Soul, I feel beyond smarter. My brain cells grew brain cells. Thank you. Julio had some good comments. Let me pull up Julio's comment. I think there's some things that, I think I brought this up before. There was another one, I think, that Julio, another gem. Keep dropping those gems. Guys, due to time constraints, let me put you backstage and bring in the aforementioned J.W, who is in the house, ready to tackle this topic with gusto. Matt Fink and Joe Risitano will surround J.W as he speaks and presents. J.W, the floor is yours.
So the question basically is, do I want a larger-than-life superstar in my wrestling company, or do I not? The answer is, without a doubt, I 100% would love to have that larger-than-life person, because at the end of the day, pro wrestling is also a business. If I have a wrestler who has cachet and attention, mainstream attention outside of the wrestling world, that brings more eyes to my product. That brings people to the product that might not normally watch wrestling. And who knows, if they watch it because they've seen this one particular superstar, if they've seen this person in movies, if they've seen him on TV, if they've seen him do other things, they're like, hey, I know that guy. Let me check out this wrestling show. He's doing wrestling. And who knows, they could actually get hooked on it and become a pro wrestling fan. It's going to automatically generate revenue. It's going to bring new eyes. It's going to bring new sponsorship, to the product. And you brought up what happens if that person ends up developing an ego and becomes a prima donna. But here's where the strategy comes in at, because if the person does develop an ego and now all of a sudden they want green M&Ms in their dressing room and they want a chauffeur-driven limo and they want a helicopter, if it's done correctly, using that person's star power to bring in a new audience and to bring in revenue and to bring in more money to my company, to bring in more eyes to my company, if it's done correctly, the other wrestlers that I put that person in the ring with, they will also become stars just by being in the same presence as this other person. And if I can develop new stars, if I can use this prima donna, and that's nothing, wrestling fans aren't stupid, but so if you do become a prima donna, the wrestling fans are most likely going to hate that person anyway. So if the wrestling fans don't like you anymore because you're a prima donna and they're like, hey, you used to be cool, but we don't like you anymore now because you got a big head and you got an ego. If I can come up with another wrestler that the people can get behind, I can turn this person into the next star by going against the person that the fans felt like turned on him. So yeah, of course I want him because I could use him to build my company. And if it's done correctly at the end of the day, if that person goes back to Hollywood or goes back to doing whatever it is that they're doing, I've used their presence to not only create new stars in my company, but to also bring new eyes and new revenue to my product.
Thank you, JW. Dream Big Production, great Wednesday night so far. Thank you. We're trying to give you as much diversity as we can through the topics, but also the presenters who are really teaching us a lot. Again, guys and gals and pals, if you're not privy to a topic and you're ignorant about it, you're in the right place because that is how we learn. Again, let go of that ego and realize that you can learn a lot from individuals and also the ensemble of Joe Risitano, J.W., Matt Fink, and Stevie Ray. That being said, I'm going to bring up Stevie Ray right now and see if he wants to get some bonus points by adding as well to this topic, Mr. Stevie Ray.
Okay. Everything JW said is 100% true, but it only applies to certain parts of time. And I'll put it in this context. When professional wrestling was more of a subculture, that worked. Now professional wrestling is more of pop culture. You will have a problem. Because nowadays, everything is about the brand. Just like the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey. Those brands represent the country. And do you ever notice? Nobody gets bigger than the brand.
Yeah.
That's in music. That's in, theater. Everything now is about the brand. So everything you're saying is 100% right, but it's a double-edged sword to it. Sometimes people are in position to know how to corral things and not let them get out of hand. But Jarrell, I've seen them. I've seen the Frankenstein, you know what I'm saying? I've seen the part where the guy was saying, it's alive, man. He was happy.
Yeah.
But then when Frankenstein started tearing up everything, he was like, oh, wait a minute, brother. I didn't know this was going to happen. Yeah. So what does that do when that happened? People always go, we'll never let it happen again.
Yeah.
So it's always that ceiling. Fink knows this. They signed with the record company. Fink, you know this. They only let you get so far, and then they're going to put the clamp on old Fink because they know what he can do. Then the Fink might come in one day and go, I feel like holding somebody hostage today. I need a little bit more off the top. Because at the end of the day, the company always got the goods and want to stay in control. So in essence, everything you're saying is 100% right, but it also depends on what time that we're saying this. Avi didn't really specify.
Oh, the time frame.
We talking about the old days, or we talking about the new days? Because in the new days, it's about what did the guy tell John Travolta in the movie Staying Alive?
Oh, here we go.
It's about the show, Monero. You remember that. It's about the show. That's kind of like
you know why I'm laughing.
Wait, so don't go out here trying to steal the show, baby.
Hey guys, for those that don't know, I worked with Stevie in Vegas years ago, and I saw this man put together a amazing panel of guests, which reminded me of the Dean Martin roast. If you guys remember those were amazing. And Stevie Ray conducted himself like a maestro. With about 2 days' notice, he asked me if I would, assist, and I'm trying to assist, and I realized he doesn't need my assistance. He's got this thing covered. He had Ernest the Cat Miller and Eric Bischoff and Sonny Ono, and dare I say his name, it's blasphemous, but Madden, Mark Madden, who had to go solo, go rogue, Stevie. You have to go rogue. But I bring this up because every single time there's an analogy that I hear from Stevie, and there's so many, there should be a book, a Stevie Ray analogy book. That Monero one always gets me because you could apply it to war, you could apply it to history, you could apply it to sports, you could apply Monero. If you guys don't know what Monero is, again, Saturday Night Fever, man. I just had to tell you that right now. And I probably heard it. We got a streak going. Stevie and I talk on the phone a lot. I probably haven't gone 1 week in the last 3 years without hearing that. And I love it. Every time it makes sense to me. But to answer your question, it could be during any era that speaks to you as it pertains to the topic, because guys, Stevie lived it. Matt lived it. Again, our industry's all that different. Egos are
No.
egos, right?
Mhm.
There's always going to be people that either have creative differences, logistic differences, and I have that in writers' rooms all the time. I left Lionsgate. I will say that publicly. I left them, and I'm with a studio now that respects me more because I was always told that if I develop an ego and don't commit to a script that I'm being commissioned to write, then I am going against the company. So I didn't think I was being an egomaniac by not writing material that spoke to me. Other people might have. So isn't that funny how a superstar may not even know that they're being destructive, that their ego, they think their value should command complete control. And sometimes maybe we need, let me interweave this last topic. Maybe we needed Patton to slap some of these egomaniacs. Hey, wait a minute.
Or
this
if
is
you
a
build,
team, it's an ensemble here.
if you build Frankenstein's monster, you should educate him before you let him out to do his thing.
No, of course. So Stevie, so if I may, because you do have the experience, you do have the knowledge.
Yep.
So if you are a promoter in today's in 2025 in today's world, you're a promoter, you got your own wrestling company, and somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we got this person. He's mainstream. You know, he's a big name. Blah blah blah." Knowing what you know with all of your history and all of your knowledge, is the juice worth the squeeze?
It all depends. In the wrestling world, it all depends because everything's based on somebody else's opinion of that person.
Yeah.
You might have 10 guys that like him over here. You might have 30 guys that don't over
JW,
here.
could he benefit you? Is he scratching your back? If he is, and you're in that camp, you wouldn't be against that person having that much control.
But that's the thing. He's not going to come into your company
and take over
with the same control he had somewhere else.
Exactly.
That is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. That is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Because I'm going to tell you right now, once a person becomes like you were talking about, a prima donna,
right?
That word is never used in pro wrestling.
No.
That's that's never used. But we know what you're talking about. But the thing is, the only way you change the mindset, he has to be humbled. He can make you money, but you have to know how to humble him in some way, shape, or form.
And there's another layer to this. What if you humble him, JW, and artistically speaking, what if you humble him or her? What if they get humbled and artistically and creatively, you can't get more mileage out of them because now all of a sudden they think that they're being controlled and they either their morale is either low and shot, or they now have a lot of angst. And out of spite, don't want to give the company their best.
But see, but my response to both of those things, that's why I specifically said, if done right, you can get enough out of them.
How would you do it right, though? How would you do it right?
You can get enough out of them to build your company, whether they leave or stay.
How do you do it right?
I mean, again, like he said, you sit that person down and have that conversation with them.
What if they're not listening?
But in the back,
you don't hire them.
Yeah, you don't hire them.
But your losses.
But they could give you lip service and say all the right things initially.
But this is the thing. If you put him in a position, this is the thing. Words make a difference. You got to know how to talk to talent.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't talk to talent like me and the Fink talk, or me and Joe talks, or me and you Abby talk, or you can't talk to talent like that. You got to be able to communicate with them from a whole nother level.
Very interesting.
And that's an art. That's an art form within itself.
I would agree with that. Communication, absolutely. Speaking to different people in different ways. JW, one
second. You got to make him think one thing, but in essence, you got something else involved.
You got to plan B.
Makes sense. Soul says, I guess an ideal situation, the promotion would build a megastar who goes out to Hollywood and draws eyes back to wrestling. The Rock, Batista, Cena all help make wrestling cool to non-fans. Thank you for your thoughts. That's from Eric talking about the GM getting slapped, the general manager, I guess. Julio, you can definitely see how much Stevie was chomping at the bits to get in here. Hey, great dialogue. Great dialogue. But
he didn't even pick wrestling. I did.
I didn't. This ain't my topic.
Well, I'll say this, guys. Again, here's the thing. If you have an opinion, it won't be judged in this place. We respect it no matter what. That being said, Joe and Matt, do you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Mr. Matt Fink, the floor is yours.
Joe, did you want to have something to say first?
No, you go first.
Okay. I just have to say one thing. I mean, I agree with what they're saying, but if you really want to do it right, like you say, JW, you guys haven't talked about contractual obligations. Obviously, those come into play, and then you have to negotiate in advance with these so-called stars that are already in existence that you're trying to bring into your camp to promote and for bigger and better things, you know. So if you get your legal ducks and contractual obligations in a row, if they breach, they're done. If they don't and they follow their great contract and they get what they want and you get what you want out of it, as long as everybody's happy with that contract and it's abided by everyone, then it will succeed, hopefully. And if it doesn't succeed, it's just because, you know, people didn't like the guy.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Sure. Can I say something to what Fink is saying? Fink is 100% right. Fink is 100% right on the legal end. But see, in professional wrestling, those contracts, they have nothing to do with the creative side.
Yeah.
If you see what I'm saying, they have something to do with the logistics side as to I got to show up for this many days. I got to do this many. I get paid this much money for pay-per-views and this, that, and the other, the money stuff. But on the creative side, certain guys like, okay, Hulk Hogan came in to WCW. He had clauses in his contracts that people didn't know about that gave him the advantage over the kind of guys you're talking about. Because a lot of guys, just because they're promoters, sometimes they can be the dumbest son of a gun you ever ran into in your life. And that can boil over. And like you said, he got lucky with that because it really never happens. But this is the thing. It'll never happen again, Fink.
Well,
it'll never happen again.
I get that. But at the same time, if in advance of working with anybody, there you have to say, well, here's your producer of this event at any given moment, and this is the guy. And yeah, he's got ultimate control. Kind of like when you do a recording contract and you're assigned a producer, the producer has ultimate control over what goes on the album. Unless the artist
that's why I made reference to your business.
Yeah.
That's why I make reference to your business. You would understand from that level. Yeah.
I do. So the question is, do they get creative control through their contract or
not?
No,
it ain't no such thing. That was an anomaly.
That is never negotiated in or out.
Right. No.
Okay. I didn't know that.
You wanted to,
I'm not in that world.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. If you catch the right, if you think you know this too, you catch the right pigeon on the right day, then it is what it is.
Okay.
Matt Fink, I'll tell you, in the rare case of Hulk Hogan in the 80s, the wrestler would get a percentage based on what the gate did.
Yeah, that's true too.
It was trickle down Hoganomics. If you were on wrestling on the same card as his, it would trickle down your way as well because you'd get a guaranteed sellout with his name on the marquee. Now, of course, there are lucrative contracts.
Right.
So it has changed and evolved. I do find it very interesting that Stevie and Matt, myself as well, just being in this industry in different fields, it really boils down to the same thing. It boils down to whether or not you feel as if your value can speak for itself. If it can speak for itself and it runs the risk of you either being terminated or bought out, and being bought out means essentially you're sitting home getting paid half your contract most of the time, is it worth it? Well, you know what, guys and gals and pals? Maybe creatively there are reasons. We've heard great stories about musical artists fighting for their vision, wanting to see their vision and tackling these suits and ties. But due to time constraints, guys, I'm going to stop. I'm going to bring up your comments in a moment. JW had a final point to make, please, my friend.
Oh no, I was just going to ask Matt. So you would take the chance on bringing? Yeah, you would take the chance
as long as the contract was negotiated properly. But go ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely take the chance also. But like you said, because this person has an ego and is a prima donna, I would take that chance. But I would also have a plan B. I would have a plan B.
Of course. But you also want to try and rein them in if you foresee problems from their ego down the road. You want to have contractual constraints in there in advance.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And
Fink is 100% right.
And Stevie, Matt, and JW, will Joe Risitano try to rein in the viewers right now by jumping in?
I'm good.
Are you good? You're sitting
good.
this one out.
I think I set this one out.
Gotcha. All right, guys. So let's bring in the judges right now. Sitting this out. I'm going to bring in Phil Justin again, guys. Judges, we're going to zip right through this. Let us know again who you vote for and why. Phil.
Okay, this was another good one. All right, Mr. JW, right to the point. That's what I really like. You had your ducks in a row. Yes, you would take a chance. You had some very good reasons. A big name could build your company, bring new eyes onto your company, and the people already in your company could strive bigger and have bigger goals seeing this other star, and they would become stars too. I thought that was brilliant. Stevie, having the personal experience, definitely knows from where he speaks. Cannot argue that. Matt brought up a very good point. Contracts. The legal end is your ace in the hole. So with that, I'm going to give this topic to J.W. and Stevie.
Okay, Eric concurs in the comment section. Thank you. Appreciate you, Phil. I'm going to bring in Howard Collado. Howard, are you okay? You good?
Yeah. Sometimes egos could, get the best of you, and egos can be very dangerous. At the end of the day, who did I learn a lot from? Really, it was Stevie and Matt. I learned a lot from both of you guys. Maybe you should consider being a team. Just throwing that out there.
Are you trying to break up?
I know all the Prince albums.
Yes. Same.
You've been doing amazing. That's what I'm saying.
Are you trying to get in between the team of Stevie Ray and JW?
or Joe and Matt?
It seems like that.
Well, I made an observation. Stevie and Matt have amazing chemistry. I think
fascinated to hear
you
your
know what? I actually thought the same thing, man.
I'm just saying.
I just love what he says, man. I like piggybacking off it, man. I like
hey, there is a trading deadline by August. We'll see how that goes. Howard?
I'm gonna keep this quick. The fact was Stevie, I never. So creative is something that isn't part of a contract and wrestling.
No.
Wow,
that's an anomaly, Howard. It's an anomaly.
No.
I never knew that, and learning that was something that really kind of fascinated me. So yeah, my vote's going to go to Stevie Ray.
Gotcha. Thank you, Howard. Stevie Ray and JW, you mean?
Yeah. Stevie Ray.
Yeah, JW is my partner. Oh, okay, I got you.
Not according to Howard.
I'm sorry, you're right.
I'm just saying.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate you, Howard.
Does Howard know what show he's judging?
I got to talk to him after the show. Giselle, your vote?
He didn't even acknowledge you. I don't.
No.
That's not
Hi.
right.
Hello, Giselle.
Yeah, this was a great question again, because there are so many things to think about if you're putting something like this together. Do you build it around somebody who is that good? Do they stay that good? Do they take that power? Does that turn into ego instead of so many other things they can do with it? So great question, Avi. And I love the conversation that followed. My vote for this one is going to Stevie Ray and JW.
Appreciate your vote.
Thank you.
And let's bring in Miranda right now and see who she votes for and why.
Hello. Another interesting debate topic. I have to go with, even though Joe and Matt made great points as well, I think JW and Stevie Ray really... What?
What did I just miss? What happened? Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't make a point. Sorry, Matt did. I forgot. You sat it out. Matt made great points this time around. I was putting you in the same team, but I guess you're not in the team, Joe.
Okay.
Well, not according to Howard.
Wow. Okay.
You guys are a team.
Not according to Howard.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, the teams are. I don't know what's going on here. JW and Stevie Ray got me on this one because JW was saying how profitable it can be for a wrestling company to have a superstar on the team, depending on how they manage them, to make sure that they don't get that big diva attitude of whatever the lingo is for the wrestling world. And then Stevie Ray brought in some really good insight with how the contracts go and how it is behind the scenes, because he's been through that, being a wrestler and all. So I got to go with J.W. and Stevie Ray for this one.
Appreciate that. And here to Miranda, thank you. Guys, for this last topic, I'm going to pull an audible. I had something that was a lot more detail-oriented. Due to time constraints, I can save that topic for another time. I'll give Joe a topic right now. And again, all of you guys, your votes in the comment section will be worth double. The judges will not be judging this final topic. Again, due to time constraints, I will be tallying the voters in the comment section and making sure that I double their votes. So, Joe, the topic I have for you, I had cinema, but I have something else for you because you're such a music aficionado. So the question I have off the top of my head is a simple one, and it can go many different ways. In your opinion, what has been the biggest tragedy in the music world in the last 50 years? The biggest tragedy. Now, does that mean loss of life? Are we going Big Bopper? Right? Are we going Big Bopper and Buddy Holly? Are we going the breakup of a band? I just fleshed this out now. So forgive me, guys, for once for not having a monologue to accompany this topic because, again, due to time constraints, this is why we go live and that's how we thrive, guys. Not many people could do this. I'm picking a topic off the top of my head due to time constraints. So, again, biggest music tragedy, the biggest tragedy in the music world in the last 50 years, Joe. I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to put everybody backstage. And we'll see how Joe and Mr. Fink and Stevie and J.W. do. Let me bring in our judges. Again, due to time constraints, we're going to zip through this. The judges will not be voting on screen. Our viewers will be.
Man, Avi, could I just say, yeah, great topic.
No, Joe's still here.
The death of, Kurt Cobain, the plane crash of Leonard Skinner.
I mean, do we personalize it? Is it loss of life? Is it loss of meaning? Is it loss of soul, literally and figuratively? Is it maybe perhaps the all too often compromise that we see in the music world from said artists? Is it abandonment? Maybe it came from above. Maybe the suits and ties were involved in some trial. There's so many different ways. It's such a general topic. But again, due to time constraints, they can go anywhere they'd like. Joe can go anywhere he'd like with this. Biggest tragedy in music. Now, Howard, it's if you were to pick, you're a fan of music. If you were to pick how about this? The most unexpected rise in music of any band. Is there any band that comes to mind that maybe the masses welcomed and embraced that initially surprised everybody? Maybe a band that didn't have commercial appeal, but then all of a sudden did. Is there any band that comes to mind?
Wow, that's such a great question. I cannot but think of when certain singles come out from a band or a group and they just kind of skyrocket. For some, I don't know why. Milli Vanilli is coming to mind. Don't ask why. I'm not the biggest fan, but I mean
Oh my God.
That's a controversial one.
Howard, I know we're live, but Howard, I know we're live, but take two.
I mean, you can make a good case about Nirvana being, overnight.
Well, here's the thing I always get mad about. There's no such thing as grunge music. It's something that was labeled.
Yeah.
They were all so different. They only had one thing in common. They were from Seattle. Alice in Chains was a heavy metal band. Pearl Jam did progressive folk music. Nirvana had their roots rooted in punk. I mean, that's where their music came from. They were pretty much a new wave punk band. So grunge was just something that was handed down by, again, the suits and ties and the corporate people at MTV for marketing reasons. Let's bring in Joe, and I'm going to put you guys backstage. Appreciate you as well, all of your thoughts and opinions. Miranda as well. You did great tonight with some of these topics, and so did Phil and Giselle and Howard, because our judges take notes backstage. I see them, and they offer so much. So here we go. Joe Risitano is going to be on screen with JW and Stevie right now to finish up this final topic of the evening. Joe, the floor is yours.
May 26th, 2015. That was the day that an album called Multi-Love by the New Zealand / Portland, Oregon band Unknown Mortal Orchestra released it. This album featured heavy jazz, rock, fusion, a little bit of R&B, some electronic influences. But one influence that you could tell throughout the album that influenced all of this a year prior to the date that it happened was Prince. From the guitar, the way that they were able to play everything to a certain level, the mixing, the sound, the way that the vocals were kind of blurred, all influenced by Prince. And what I'm saying is the greatest tragedy in music is the loss. Much, much later, a year later, in April 21st, 2016, at least almost a year and a month, or less than a year and a month before that, you don't truly understand someone's influence on music or even who they are till after they die. And specifically with Prince, he was someone that I remembered the exact day where I was, like where I was, what I was doing, what I was drinking. Because as much as at that time, it was just a small bit of knowledge, understanding that he had worked on like the Batman soundtrack from 1989, which I think to this day is one of the greatest pop influences on any superhero soundtrack ever, which later people tied in with other things and promotions and people. But much, much later, to get to know that this person had created and made work with people like Alicia Keys, the Bangles, George Clinton of Parliament or Parliament Funkadelic, Sheena Easton, Morris Day and Morris Day in the Time, even our own Dr. Fink. and Kenny Rogers, oddly enough. This man made albums that felt like watercolor paintings. His first 3 albums were produced, created, all the instruments done by himself, and yet even as people undermine or think of his talent as merely someone that is just a good or was a good shredder at one point, this is someone that was so giving to music, to, in an underground way almost, create some of the best albums to this date. Even like every Revolution album, every album that proceeded after, everything from Purple Rain to hearing songs like Christopher Tracy's Parade or Raspberry Beret, you hear feeling and nuance. You hear influences of Herbie Hancock, even past influences like on some of his things with Eric Leeds. You hear some influences from John Coltrane or even the one and only Miles Davis in some of the fusion. And yet his death marks a place where it feels like music stopped being about pushing the envelope. And I'm not just talking about things like Darling Nikki or like Erotic City, like maybe like in lyrics, something that's more like physical or primal. I'm talking about like being emotionally present with what you're playing. And that if you're talking with someone who doesn't understand a subject that you understand fully, and as you get passionate talking about it, you just don't feel like really being around them anymore because they're not as fulfilled as you are. That's how Prince was. and promoted, but also continue to be. And to lose such an artist as that makes it feel like there's nothing really left. It doesn't mean that people can't, but it also means that we'll never have someone that expanded that far.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. The Real Soul Product says the backdoor deal that the hip hop industry made with a prison industrial complex. Interesting comments here. 2016, major tragedy. Julio, I feel like we all create music videos in our heads when we hear our favorite songs at home. We act like we're in one when our favorite songs come on. Sure. More. We get some more here. Eric says the murder of John Lennon. That happened in December of 80 in the Dakota building in New York City. Mark David Chapman earlier had an autograph signed for him in a very chilling photo that's still online. Hours later, of course, he was Lennon's assassin. Let's bring in Mr. Fink, Joe's teammate here. Matt, would you like to jump in on this topic?
Absolutely.
Floor is yours.
Before I get to the main question, I just have to say one more synchronicity thing that just happened about John Lennon. Just so you all know, I was in New York City 1 mile away from the Dakota when he was assassinated, because I was there with Prince to perform the following evening at the Palladium.
Oh, wow.
And it was devastating when it happened. So I was there, and it was just unbelievable. And then we all had to go on and perform, and and we did a great show in spite of all that. And after the show, I got to meet people like Andy Warhol and stuff like that. It's really fun. Okay, now I'm going to get to the gist of this really interesting question, because yes, Joe, I just really appreciate your take on the tragedy of what happened to Prince. It's unbelievable. And just a few days ago, we lost, I don't know if any of you knew this, but a dear friend of mine who was considered the godfather of the Minneapolis sound and one of the mentors of Prince in the earliest days of his career, Peppy Willie. Anyone ever know Peppy Willie or heard of Peppy?
Yes, he's actually in the intro that I brought up.
Whoa.
He passed away on Sunday. Last Sunday.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm very upset and sad because he and I were very close. I worked on a lot of projects.
In his basement, right?
I rehearsed in his basement, in 1979 when I joined Prince's band, the first year of getting ready for the earliest gigs, the first several months before 2 months before our first gig ever as a group. We rehearsed I joined the band and then rehearsed for 2 months to showcase the first album music for the executives of Warner Brothers who flew in to watch us at a
when you were
small
done with
theater.
that, isn't that when Bobby Z wanted to listen to the demo tape? Your demo tape?
Oh no, I heard Prince's demo way before that. Yeah, good. No, this is after he was signed, and we had to play it for the record executives after he had the first album done and everything. Okay,
sure.
So getting back to this topic, obviously it's a great tragedy that we lost Prince and many other artists in 2016. Iconic people, but the reality is this. To me, the biggest tragedy that happened to the industry as a whole was the advent and introduction of the Napster song stealing service, which came out in the early 2000s. Yeah. So 2000s. And what that did is it disrupted the industry, and artists started losing money like crazy because of this, because
Metallica took a stance on that.
All of it. Everybody was pirating everybody's music this way. Okay. And so that was devastating financially. And then by around 2004, I'll never forget this, because I was communicating with label people in LA. I was still living in Minneapolis, and I was looking for more production work and this and that and the other thing. And they said, Matt, do you realize what's going on out here? And I said, not really. I mean, I know Napster has disrupted things. And they said, but we've had to lay off 50% of our staff at Sony and Universal, and started naming off all the big labels and Warner Brothers,
Wow.
And it was just it was carnage. So that was a huge tragedy that the industry has kind of recovered from, but not really enough, because the so-called streaming services like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, several more. There's like a big kind of 5, but the big 3 are really Amazon, Apple, and Spotify. Okay, and Spotify is the biggest. And what they're doing is their so-called split of royalties and streaming amounts that they pay every time someone listens to a song it's like everybody in the industry is still trying to wrap their brain around it. And they've gone to the government and, they've improved it a little bit. They're starting to get a little more money. There's some things that I think Trump actually did in the first administration where people who were there passed better things. The industry people went to Congress and the Senate and they agreed, yeah, we need to help artists more and get them a better rate through streaming. But it's still dismal. It's still not right. It's not good enough. People are suffering in the industry, and there's a whole new mindset taking place now. And I'm just now on the ground floor of a new company that's going to be introduced. I'm going to be a promoter of this company. They've come to me for help, and it's a tech company, and it's going to have AI assisted website and an app to help artists manage their careers and to connect with their fans and keep track of all their streams properly, and just it's a whole encompassing aspect. It addresses financials, mental health, how to promote yourself, all your social media, and it keeps track of all your data. It will be keeping track of all that. So it will be an assistant. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to make it big in the industry, but it can certainly help you in the future with better promotional side to your music. And if you strike a nerve because you've written great music that people can relate to, it'll just enhance the ability to reach more people.
Very cool, man. I think that's great for young artists out there. Absolutely.
But that's the tragedy to me.
Yeah.
The biggest one of all, in spite of all the deaths of all the wonderful artists that have come before, and of course, that's always a tragedy, and we miss them all dearly and love them all. And but this one thing is still disrupting the industry. That whole Napster thing started a whole domino effect that hasn't been really completely remedied. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
25 years, yeah. It happened in early 2000. Right now, I'll turn it over to Stevie and J.W. if they want to jump in on this topic or not.
No, I do. I feel like the biggest tragedy to the music industry, probably in the same lane with what Matt was saying, social media in general. I think social media was like the biggest, because through Joe's points and through Matt's points, the word album came up quite a few times. Like you even mentioned soundtracks, movie soundtracks. We don't have those anymore. Like when I was a kid, like we used to love movie soundtracks because movie soundtracks were opportunities for us to hear artists collaborate with each other that we didn't normally get to see. Like singers used to collaborate with rappers. Rappers would do songs with like rock band people, all to come together for a movie soundtrack. And we kind of don't have that anymore. Like it's weird because back in the day, if you were a one-hit wonder, that was considered a bad thing. You were considered like a joke. In today's world, because of social media and because of the instant gratification, being a one-hit wonder is actually something that they encourage. Because it's not about doing an album anymore. It's not about putting your heart and soul into an album. It's, hey, social media said this topic is trending. We need you to do a song about this. And then the artist is like, but I got 17 songs from my album. No, forget your album. We just need one song about this because this is what's trending right now in the world. Give us a song about this and let's just throw it out there. People make money off of individual songs now. They don't make money off of albums. Artists, they make more money now performing, performing on stage than they actually do with their own record sales. And then they don't. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Matt.
I wasn't meaning to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No. Keep going.
Yeah, and and it's not the same. Like there are a lot of artists now. Artists are actually making money now, more so performing their old songs back when music was music than the new songs that they're actually putting today, because nowadays they'll just make like one song, like you said, like they'll just get downloads off of that one song. But
are they the ones making money, JW?
Who? The artists? I mean, not through the streaming. They're not making money through the music they're making today. If anything, they're making more money off of their old music because they get paid to perform their classic hits, Like nobody. Like I just watched. I mean, if you're a fan of rap, the rap group, the
Well, where do you watch their classic hits? How can a viewer consume that?
By buying tickets.
By buying tickets, but that has decreased drastically since COVID.
Well, first of all, wait. First of all, hold on. Let me interject.
Yeah.
First of all, somebody made a comment earlier. I noticed in the comment section that videos have gone away.
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Yeah. Well, MTV's doesn't really exist like it used to at all, or VH1. They do the VH1 sort of there, but regardless of that, just all you have to do is go on YouTube or Vivo, and everybody's music videos are on there. All the artists are all there, and they're streaming millions and millions of the popular artists. So yeah, it's the medium of music video still exists.
It still exists,
and it's still promoting. That person is made that comment. Maybe is a little misinformed.
And here's the thing too, like I look at anything in life as being rooted in reality and logical. If you get to see a person and you appreciate their talents, the evolution of that would be to want to know more about them, about the talent. And whether we like it or not, and I certainly don't, when MTV was producing music videos in the decade of the 80s, it was enough for us. We consumed the music. We appreciated the video. And then later on, we wanted to know the person or the people involved, because that's the evolution of having interest in something that you're not really close to, but you want to get close to it.
And
MTV tapped into that. So now they opened up the homes of these artists, and we saw their cribs, and we saw their car collection, and reality shows, as you've mentioned, JW, turned the common folk into stars, because essentially talent wasn't necessarily a driving force, because it goes back to our last topic about pro wrestling. I'll interweave it.
Right, and
It's a lot
personality.
easier,
Personalities.
Easier to control people that either aren't privy to this industry, don't have a lot to offer in the long game, as a musician can, but if they're giving you the same numbers and the same metrics of today in 2025 as an established act is, and it's more cost effective, if you're a suit and tie, who are you going to back? You're going to back the person who gives you least resistance, because they're just happy to be there.
But JW, you're right. I mean, there's other ways to make money, plenty of money in the music industry, by going out and playing live and selling your merch. That's why they give out the so-called 360 deal, which is the record label won't sign you unless they have control of every aspect of your career, from the touring to the merch to the album sales, if you're doing vinyl on the side, and the streaming and everything. So it's all there, and they don't. It's very rare, even if you're an extremely talented artist, you have to prove to them that your socials are huge. You have to have a certain amount of followers before they'll sign you. And even after they sign you, the money that they put into you, that you go into debt for, usually is only spent on promotion for you, and all that. Otherwise,
and there's a new catch too, Matt. The new catch is, if you don't maintain those numbers or increase those numbers in terms of your socials, you're not seeing this. You're not.
Yes, exactly.
It's about your social media followers. It's not your talent as an artist. Before they would say, "Hey, this artist has talent. We can make them into a star." Now it's like, "Oh, you only have 1K. We can't do anything with you."
They won't take the money or time to increase your social media or put the front money up for your budget for your album so much anymore, unless you're an extremely established artist. I mean, I'm sure Beyonce gets a big album budget still, but if you're an up and coming new artist, you have to be. It happens. They do sign new people, but you have to be really amazing. I mean, really, they're just blown away. You're like the next big thing. They believe in you, and even that, there's no guarantee that person is still gonna sell a gazillion copies and stream a gazillion streams and all that. So it's all very risky for the money backers, as it always has been. And this is where we can bring Prince back into the conversation, because he rebelled against Warner Brothers after he made them a ton of money, and he wrote "slave" on his face, and he went to them and he said, "Look, guys, it's time to renegotiate my contract. You guys are taking too much money, and I want to. You own my masters. I want to get my masters back someday, and which I will, but I have to wait way too long. So can we cut a better deal, please? Can we try that?" And they just said no. and that's when he went slave and said "F you," and he wouldn't.
Right.
He got rid of his name and started doing all this stuff. He even considered re-recording, which he did, some of his hit songs, because when you re-record them, you can re-release them and keep all the royalties. That's a little loophole that nobody knows a lot about. And so he was, and when Taylor Swift had her big blowout with Scooter Braun, who managed to steal her catalog from her control of her masters, she vowed to re-record her entire catalog so she could own it again. So that's the deal. And I actually had the opportunity to work on some rap music where we re-recorded DMX. We re-recorded he re-recorded all his vocals, and we did all his background music for him so he could re-record and re-own his masters. And one of those songs that I did appeared in one of those Marvel movies.
Oh, really? Which movie, Matt?
Venom. I think it was Venom.
Very cool. Joe, you wanted to jump in, Joe?
No, the other one. The other one with the guy that's all scarred up who has the mask.
Deadpool?
What's that? Deadpool. It was Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2. Sorry. I get him confused because they're so butt ugly.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
agreed.
I was going to say that social media, while to some extent I can agree that it has its issues or has ruined a lot, it has also benefited a lot of people. If I hadn't seen a lot of things through social media, we wouldn't get people like the jazz funk band Wolfpack, who through social media they were able to.
It's
work
beneficial.
through.
You're right. You have to use it. That's the thing. You have to. If you're an artist that isn't willing to work social media or hire somebody that knows how to work social media for you nowadays, you're not going to get the label to do it unless they really believe in you. Then the label will pay that promotional money for you, but you owe them that money. You have to recoup that from your streaming sales and your touring sales.
They would add things on Spotify constantly, because even when things were working against them for YouTube or some other things in that, what they would do is they would hide EPs that had tour dates and information of places to go on Spotify in albums that they released that got eventually taken down, just so they could get promoted more and more. And they eventually went to one of their biggest and most beloved concerts is them at Madison Square Garden after making those leaps, and then from there going to California to France to much anywhere.
Wow.
So
Well, great points, guys. The last person here on this panel is Mr. WWE Hall of Famer Stevie Ray, and I'll ask him if he wants to jump in on this topic as well.
I didn't initially, because see, music is near and dear to my heart.
It is, yeah.
Near and dear to my heart.
As it is to most of us. Yeah.
In a different way, Matt, with all due respect. With all due respect. What I'm talking about is, as a little kid, going back to you, Avi, somebody posted something about hip hop being in cahoots with the record labels. You know which one I'm talking about?
I'll pull up the comment right now, actually. I know exactly which comment you're talking about. Music hasn't been the same. I don't think it's that one. I think it is this comment, the backdoor deal that the hip-hop industry made with the prison industrial complex.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know anything about it?
Me?
Sorry. You know anything about this?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I do. I used to have my own security company and bodyguard service.
Okay.
And I protected some of the top artists when they came through Houston that you'd ever, I could run off names, black and white. I could run off names, but I never do. Avi knows this because he's been knowing me for a long time. And getting to meet these people, these real artists. And do you know, as many people as I've met, I never asked one for an autograph. That's how much respect I had for them. Never thinking that I would ever open my own security company. Never thinking I would get a contract where the building where they came and performed, that my company is the one that will look over them. And it was just like, that was the height of a height. That's what I did before I got into the professional wrestling business. That's why the professional wrestling business never wooed my mind, because I had been around top artists and they talked to me and gave me edification on what this business was about. From even Smokey Robinson to people like Wayne Newton. I've had conversations with these people in their dressing rooms. And I look back on that, and then I look back on the industry.
Frankie Valli.
Yes, Frankie Valli. Yeah, who well, I don't even want to get into that story, man. But meeting guys like that.
So what's your main point that you're
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm getting to that. Yeah. But what I want to do is lay down some things to let you know why this stuff is near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Music, period. Even met the great Steve Perry here in Houston at the big arena, what we call the Summit back in the day. I was security there. But be that as it may, I'm a musical history buff.
Yes.
Not so much as on individuals, but the music itself, and how so many derivatives from the music has tentacles to turn into so much stuff. Now, and I didn't know this until I started reading the history of music. I'm an African American, so I look at things first from an African American point of view. And I look at how so much music has come from us and turned into so much everything and entertained people all over the world, not just here in the United States of America. Then we get up until, okay, in the early 80s, when the hip hop started to hit, and hip hop was big, and hip hop was new, and it was fresh. And then all of a sudden, it changed. All of a sudden, just like that backdoor deal with the hip hop industry. If anybody knows anything, there was several people that has put these things out to the public, but they never got traction. They never got traction. But by the fact that I worked around certain artists, I heard this before it ever hit the news. But you're like, wow, is that true? Because you don't know. And then when people start writing books about it, then that's when you see stuff. So when you talk, the initial question that Avi put out about what is the biggest tragedy, well, the biggest tragedy to me that I came up listening to so many artists that made the game, that pretty much put the game at another level. And now, because of what the powers that be have done with hip hop that was so glorious and so fresh, and turned it into something demonic in a lot of ways, still good in a lot of ways, but demonic in a lot of ways, and sell that to our young African-American Black people. So you've taken something that was normal, turned it into abnormal, and then normalized it again and sold it as music. Whereas when you glorify something like that, what does it do to a young man? The hip hop industry made a prison industrial complex. That's about money. That's about control. And that's about keeping people down. They just had a thing of a year ago, where they said 50 years of hip hop. Did anybody see that?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
50 years of hip hop. What did we get out of 50 years? If something's been around for 50 years, what did it create in 50 years? Something positive. Can you name me one thing positive that it created in 50 years? That's a half a century.
Yeah.
But when you had real music and real musicians, real musicianship, well, a person had to learn how to play a guitar, drums, keyboards, come together, be in the pocket, make something that's move your emotions, because art is about emotions. Not moving your emotions to want to do something bad, moving your emotions to want to do something for others. When you guys were talking about John Lennon, isn't that what he talked about? When you guys were talking about Prince, isn't that what he talked about? And when you were talking about the Big Bopper, all these different people, they made people feel good when they said something. They don't make you want to feel like to hurt your brother or your sister. or misogynistic type mindset when you're dealing with a female. Nobody wants to point out the obvious. But at the end of the day, we come from a place of rhythm.
Of what again?
When you come
You're
from
breaking up.
Africa.
Oh, okay.
Okay. When you come from Africa, you grown up through a beat because different tribes can talk to you through drum beats. So it's in your DNA. But where did it go? Because that's a real artist. So I can take a kid, make him say demonic things, and now what's abnormal has become normal. So when that person that put that backdoor deal with the prison industrial complex, it's real. In 50 years, I can tell you the numbers as to how many young people that went to jail for believing in a fallacy. I can tell you how many prisons have been built through private money. I can tell you how much the states give to different police organizations because their subsidies depend on it. So they have to pretty much suppress certain communities. And I'll say again, I've met some of the greatest, and I'll take that to my grave. Even when my daughter was coming up, I would never let her watch BET. Never. Because that's garbage, disguised like it's a prostitute, disguised as a queen. That's a prostitute at the end of the day. So my daughter came up listening to this day. She listened to a lot of underground artists because I never let her be brainwashed by that bullshit. It's not all hip hop is bad, but when you have one category, my man Matt just brought up Beyonce, and just a couple of years ago, Beyonce has won more Grammys than anybody else in music history. Who can't when you're unopposed? If you're the heavyweight champion of the world and you keep the belt for 25 years, that means you didn't fight nobody. Because there was nobody there to fight. And we glorify she won. Oh, she won 25 grand. Really? She the only one up here for the Grammy. The other people, you don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I just tell it like it is. So when it comes to me being an African-American and my African-American roots have been stolen from me as a person in the community. And as Ivy knows, I work around college kids and high school kids all the time. So I keep up with what's going on with young America. That, to me, is the biggest tragedy in American music. The death of an artist. We've seen that, and we all gonna go through that. You know, whether they be actors, artists, sports figures. But the death of music, contrived, and someone behind it, I got a problem with that. And I'm not afraid to say it. And all these other people come out and say, oh, well, you know, hip hop did this and hip hop did. Yes, it did. But how much did it do? How many session musicians,
especially when it's
used to
attached,
make good,
especially Stevie, when, and I agree with you, especially when there's a false stereotype that's attached to a culture of people.
But it's all done. It's all done purposely. They all work together. None of it is an accident. None of it.
And again,
it's all contrived. Believe me.
One of the topics, we won't do it now, of course, obviously tonight, was that I conceived was cultural appropriation. You know, cultural appropriation is something that is happening right now. It's very similar to what you're speaking of right now, especially in this global society. Guys and gals and pals, hopefully you enjoyed the Black Box. I'm going to ask the judges to vote in the comment section right now real quick because due to time constraints, we're going to zip on out of here as soon as we find out the results. While we're getting the votes, please, if you guys want to bid adieu to one another, Matt, Stevie, J.W., Joe, anything you'd like to tell each other as we exit and depart?
Yeah, I want to just say to Stevie that his point is really well taken by me too. I completely agree with that sentiment too.
Yeah.
And so I'd say that's almost as equal as the Napster issue and the way that the industry has been destroyed by streaming and social media too. So they're both similar. And as a person growing up with hip hop, I had a hard time with it. I didn't like the misogyny and all the negativity coming from it. I thought it was bad. I disagreed with it too. Seeing that.
Absolutely.
But then it has evolved, and I love people like Kendrick Lamar, and several other people, a lot of hip hop artists. I do appreciate them. I really
But
do.
I guess
think they're
the
excellent.
war was won because the suits and ties and the powers that be
Mhm.
were able to flesh out a narrative that doesn't speak to the whole or the
Yeah.
individual. But here's where they succeeded: the individual now believes that is a part of their culture when it really isn't.
Yeah.
That's where the suits and ties really won, because you have a lot of African Americans that believe this is what we really are. And
Like
that's
I
how-
said, it's like
And
I
I
said, when
agree.
you take something right and turn it wrong, take
Yeah.
it in and make it
Yeah.
upside. What's right is wrong,
Yeah.
and what's wrong is right.
Yeah.
And you are too confused to know the difference.
That's right. That's right.
Because you're too young. If you
That's right.
listen, the Fink worked with a man by the name of Prince.
Mhm.
This man was very deep in thought.
Yep.
Very deep in social issues.
Yes, but
But what?
Well, he had he had some of his own issues with
That's the point, though. Matt.
and some
That's not my
misogynistic
point.
tendencies.
Hell, I could have issues right now. You don't know.
I'm sure.
I'm not talking about his issues. I'm
Okay.
talking about his thought pattern as what he conveyed to the people from his art form. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, you're right about
He
that.
could jump off
I
Mount
agree.
Everest. I wouldn't care. But that's not
Okay.
what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what he gave to the people as an artist.
Okay.
Guys, we're tied right now. Julio votes for Matt and Joe. Miranda votes for Dr. Fink. No, hold on. I didn't get that's not your vote. Howard votes for Stevie and ... J.W. Okay. Got that. Howard is still going on his anti-JW campaign. Giselle,
Is that how?
Yeah, how's Howard? And hey, just to lighten up the mood, you could blame me right now because, I like to go deep. Sure. In my opinion, the biggest tragedy in music over the last 50 years, 5 syllables. David Hasselhoff.
Oh, no.
Why do you
David
David
Hasselhoff.
Javi.
I'm just saying. I'm
Javi.
putting it out there. I'm putting it out there.
Javi.
Hey, guys, look, we're
Javi.
tied right now, and you guys know we haven't had a tie yet. The team of Tank Abbott and Phil Justin won on opening night against the team that they went up against. If I'm not mistaken, that was, who were they up against? Howard and Jacques Rougeau. They beat them. And then last week, Giselle and Pete Babcock beat Cindy Pickett and Miranda. So we're tied now. I don't know what to do in case of a tie. But, guys, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on Saturday. We got a show. We got Mick Foley in the house. How about that? We've got Ferguson Jenkins, Hall of Famer. How about that? We've got Tommy Davidson, comedic extraordinaire. How about that? And then we also have Larry Hankin, award-winning, Oscar-winning actor. It's going to be a 4-way. 3 out of 4 will move on. And I will ask you then, and viewers that are not on this show will be on Saturday's show. I'm going to play clips for you, a highlight of tonight, and you're going to vote. So we will find out Saturday night, because we're not going to stay here all night, who won this particular matchup. That's how it's going to go down. Unprecedented. JW and Joe, let me put you backstage for 1 second, my friend. Just 1 second, if I can. Mr. Stevie Ray, I'm going to bid you adieu, Mr. Fink. Did you have a nice time, my friend?
Yeah, it's great. As always, very enjoyable.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah. Thank
Joe,
Thank
you want to
you,
tell your
Matt. It
teammate,
was-
Mr. Fink?
Honestly, it was a pleasure to get to hear from you. I love getting to learn from you. You, the wealth of knowledge from you, man. Like,
thank you.
I'm just.
Well, I'm a little older. I've been around the block a little longer, but
Matt, you're one of the most
but
intelligent,
applying that
thoughtful people
to
I know,
learn.
and I still
yeah.
haven't
Applying that to
broken. I
learn.
still haven't broken bread with you. And I got to tell you, man, you really are a teacher without trying to teach. You are who you are, but the knowledge oozes out of you in such a very authentic way. I appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You have a great night, my friend.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
You too.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What a class act, Mr. Fink. What a class act. I want to bring in Stevie Ray and J.W. right now, Joe. I'll bring you right back, my friend. Thank you for doing what you did tonight, Joe. What a great conversation. Stevie, your thoughts on Mr. Fink?
Oh man, I love the Fink.
Absolutely.
I love the Fink.
I learned so much from him. I learned so much from you. I know our viewers did as well. JW, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say the fact that the four of us basically debated to a standstill. I think that means more to me than if one team would have won or lost. Because
you know what I think, JW?
What up?
I don't think we should have ever tackled their topics. We should have left them alone.
I just love them with their topic.
And you know what? The classic Stevie Ray side grin. I love the Stevie Ray side grin.
We should let them alone, man. We should let them have their own stuff.
I mean, I couldn't.
On us.
I mean, I couldn't.
It was wonderful. I felt like we were all. I don't know how this sounds, but I felt like we were all sort of one team. You know what I mean? Because
I think so.
I think an exchange of ideas, and there was a connectivity about it. And you guys were just absolutely incredible. Seeing you and Dr. Fink having conversations as if you knew each other for years. JW and Joe. JW, you haven't been on with Stevie in a very long time. Haven't met Dr. Fink. Joe hasn't been on.
I thought it was a good mix.
Matt. The connection, the chemistry. Guys, we're going to go right now. We're going to depart on a video we have. Let's bring in the whole team. Miranda. Let's bring in Giselle, Howard, Phil. If you can control JW, if you have anything to say to Howard, now's the time, but go ahead. Congrats to Stevie, JW, Joe, and Dr. Fink.
I mean, well, according to him, I wasn't a part of the show or on the team, but I'm just going to say for the record, I know we all like Bugs Bunny, but liking Bugs Bunny doesn't rebuild Hollywood. That's all I'm saying.
Or JW, Joe Risitano, Phil Justin, Giselle, Howard Colado, Miranda, and the great Stevie Ray. If he calls me the professor, he's the scholar. I'm Avi Klein. Enjoy this outro.
The next morning I woke up and I opened my eyes and I looked around the room and everything seemed as if I was seeing it for the first time. Fresh, new, alive. The light coming through the windows, familiar objects on the table. They looked fresh, new, and alive.
The bard Shakespeare once said, "It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. So if you love something, don't hate others that do, because doing is the sweet nectar that is most rewarding."